Alright. What's going on? Just getting everything set up here. Let's see. Oh, yep, we need to play that. And it's muted. Good, good. Go to our new thing. I'm gonna have to get these organized into a folder. Shoot, where did I save that? Arnar. Let's see. Fuck. Alright, well, I guess I'll do this first.
On Trovo, it opens up as if I was there, and I'm like, no. I like to lurk.
Look at you, camera. Look at you, camera on people. I'm so jealous.
You got to get with the Boomerwaffen program of your camera sideways.
Old landscape mode, they call it.
Yep.
Hey, Adam.
Hey, how's it going?
What's up, Adam? Holy shit. Fancy meeting you here.
Oh, hold on.
What a small world it is.
Oh, that's... Oh, you sound soft.
Really?
Dang.
There you go.
I don't know why. I just have to talk louder, I guess.
You sound better now, so yeah.
Yeah, I just gotta talk louder, closer to the mic, that type of shit.
Adam, you're not my friend on Discord. How dare you?
This little sus, Adam.
It's a clear beta cut.
Indeed.
Alright.
People actually friend each other on this platform? What?
Yes.
Only furries.
I guess I can be kind of a blue-pilled beta cuck at times.
Nah, veto. At times, yeah. Alright, well, I guess I'm gonna have to open my dang downloader. Because I cannot remember where I saved my backtrack. Okay, yeah, it was in soundboard.
No, look at this. You're back again. Welcome back, King Wolf. Oh. I think everyone here has met each other before. Maybe not Adam. But I know everybody else knows each other.
Adam's a boss. Boss guy. Bam Bam, what's going on? How are you? Are you gonna marry Infinite Slick or what?
Who?
Infinite Slick. What? He's a savage. Just a savage from my corner of the internet. No respect, that guy.
What is your corner of the internet?
I don't know. I've got a few. It's like a pentagon, but he's like a kill stream viewer.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I wish there was like a gain setting on Discord, because there's not.
I mean, there kinda is. Noise gate.
Is it like in Discord settings? No fucking way.
Yeah.
What about now? Is it better now?
Yeah, it's a bit louder.
Oh, fuck yeah, baby. You know my flavor.
Oopsie. Sorry.
Oh, how did you not know? Yeah.
Okay.
What a load of wank.
You are a load of wank. Yes, I agree.
Yo, Adam, I saw the leaks, bro.
Nice cock.
The leaks.
Yeah, your OnlyFans got leaked.
Man, it would be totally sweet if to have like a successful OnlyFans account, man. That'd be fucking sick.
Not.
What's up, Hans? No. Yeah.
Yeah, it must be nice to just, sit there, take some pictures, and have multiple fucking people just pay you money for your pictures.
Oh, people do it with feet and shit too. That's the craziest part.
Pictures or videos. More videos, don't forget that.
Yeah, twiddle your diddle for, 6 figures. That's
they're out there. There's not a lot of them, but they do exist.
Oh yeah.
But should they?
Yo,
No.
No.
you know Joe, right, Adam?
Yeah.
Yeah, I was thinking, I wish I could channel his accent for that thing you want to do. Oh, I'm live right now. I don't know if that's public, but you know, he's got the southern syrup, baby.
Not lately.
Oh shit, not tonight. Would you go to a fucking concert?
This is honest to God from me yelling at work. This is pure fucking rage.
Oh
at
no.
me and children.
He was throwing ladders, ladies and gentlemen.
That's... I can't believe you have to yell.
I can't believe I have to either.
I mean, this guy is truly, truly an idiot. I mean, don't you think, Joe?
What did they do? What did they do? I gotta know, like, what inspired this type of indignation.
They were flushing paper towels in the toilets.
Yeah, I bet.
Are you kidding me?
No, I mean, like, it's the equivalent. It's the equivalent, like, I would have to describe what I do to make it make sense, but, like, it's the equivalent of if you worked at a Jiffy Lube and someone who had experience was like, what do you mean that the front wipers and the back wipers are totally different on some cars? What do you mean it's not 710? I filled it with 710. What do you mean it also needs oil? And you're like, I hate all of you.
I'll be right back.
fucking want all of you fired.
I'm gonna listen though.
Yikes. Can I say that? Because it sounds like a
Yeah.
This is one of them things.
You,
Like,
you
I'll be
take it
good
easy
for,
with
like,
the
a day.
slurs, Apple. Jeez.
I didn't slur.
No, yeah.
No, I'm just. It's because you said yikes. It's just funny. You didn't actually slur.
A
But it
good
sounds
trad
like it.
woman only uses slurs in the bedroom, okay?
Oh my god.
Oh, Jesus.
I don't know about that.
You know, that's a category of porn that doesn't exist anymore, is white girls using extremely derogatory terms to black guys and then
That's
just
still out
having like
there.
a brutal train. Yeah, but it's not a category no more.
Sure it is. It's not like they disappear.
But it's not front page, like it's not socially acceptable anymore.
Now there is some new porn that's coming out that has become a thing that has been really funny, and that's the buck breaking porn.
What
Fuck,
did I
I
walk
didn't even
into?
think about this.
Or better yet, what did you
Is
make
it all
this
gay?
into?
Yeah, it's like super gay. But some of the stuff they get these black dudes to say is like absolutely insane.
I'm
Yeah,
okay
I
with
agree.
it. Yeah, I'm gonna need a link on that one.
Well, it's not something necessarily safe, but it, it crossed my table, and I'm like, oh shit. Like, yeah, that would be a thing, wouldn't it? Because that buck breaking was like the funniest thing that I've seen in a very long time. Like, I don't remember seeing that movie. That shit was hilarious.
So, did anyone do anything exciting today besides yell at people for being stupid?
No, I called in from work because my allergies are really bad.
But it's summer. Why are your allergies acting up right now?
I couldn't tell you. I knew it was bad enough for. I'm like, nah, fuck this.
Because it's summer. Yeah, I mean, I have worse allergies in the summer than I do in the spring.
What are you guys, people? Are you like allergic to peanuts too? Is that it?
No, that's just not real. Fuck off. That's like those black kids that are allergic to abortions. Like, I'm just not buying it.
There's people who say that. Of course, there's people who say that. Why am I asking that?
Yeah.
White people, yay!
Well, I knew this, go back to what Adam was talking about. I knew this gay guy who was like a big, like comic book fan. and I didn't know how much gay porn revolved around like Superman tying up Batman. Like, I didn't know that there was a whole category of this shit until he left his laptop open and, like, jokingly, we were like, fuck it, let's go see what's on his laptop. But then we were like, look at all these categories that gay people have that straight people don't have. We're like, look at all this porn I don't have access to because I'm fucking straight.
Oh, so you
Holy
hopped in this
shit.
dude's laptop knowing you were about to get in some gay shit.
Yeah, but it was like I just like we just wanted to know like what kind of like categories he liked, and then we ended up walking away envious that we were fucking straight. We're like, shit, gay porn has like way more categories than I fucking imagined.
I don't know if that's something to be envious of.
How do I? 284. What do you
I mean,
think for?
either way, you're going to be wearing Depends by age 40, so, you know, I don't think that's a very wonderful
Maybe
category to strive towards.
Maybe just envious on the way this guy is able to categorize his pornography.
Maybe.
With
I didn't
over-
realize there were that much.
worms.
I thought it was just sodomy, and some extra sodomy.
Just brimfire hell.
You left out all his furry stuff.
Yeah, Joe's like deerkin, I'm pretty sure.
Fucking.
It goes me out of something different. That's for
And
sure.
his Rule 34 file.
Oh,
I don't know
so
how
when
the
the
American would survive in the mountains. I think you would. I think you'd have to wash your mouth out with the buckshot. Like, I don't think it works out that well. It'd be like Tyrone. What's that? Dave Chappelle. That black. When he didn't realize he was black, but he was in the Klan, and they were like, "Why did you divorce her?"
Tyrone Bixby.
Yes, that's it.
reverse
She was a
vitiligo.
nigger lover.
Oh,
Oh, yeah.
we gotta
yeah,
get
sure.
out of here. That's alright, we're not that popular. We're on Odyssey too anyways, fuck it.
I'm in no way, shape, or form.
Yeah.
Aw, you're nice. Nah, it's okay. I've stopped caring. Like, if we get banned, fuck it. I'm not, like, gonna throttle the fun of the show, because
You get
scared of
more views on
ban.
average than I do during my peak streams. Okay, bro?
oh,
Shut up.
please. That's still, like, not a
Well,
lot.
I'll just put that out that I'm transracial, so.
Oh, well, no,
because
that's
I said
fine.
that statement.
Yeah, you're black.
Because I said
mean,
that statement.
I
Doing it for the
actually,
scholarships, bro.
I'm black and Jewish. Hans,
Oh,
yes,
fuck,
the
I'm
D-Live
very-
chat does show up on
you.
the screen. Thank you for the hype and rose, Apple. I appreciate that.
You're welcome. That was like 20 minutes ago.
Well, my chat doesn't tell me about, oh, I forgot to do the tweet. My chat doesn't tell me about donos yet, but it will. The one that I, like, watch now.
Walkie slush.
I still have one elixir.
Lord have mercy, I'm about to bust.
Like a single elixir. Oh well.
So Joe and I descended into a world known only as the Del Rey Misfits podcast. And it's been a fucking ride. Like, we watched some in-depth videos about some of the individual members. But I just recently started listening to the podcast, and it's such a fucking goldmine. Oh my god. Here.
Is Jason Genova still in there?
Yes, exactly. Like,
Wait.
sparsely, but yeah, he's there.
Is this a podcast of lolcows or something?
Almost, yeah. Like, well, most of them are normal, but one of the main features and the one that's always been my favorite is a guy named Big Lenny, and he's got like palumboism, which is where your gut gets like distended from all the human growth hormone. He takes like
gut, yeah.
yeah, and he fucking he's there. There's another guy named Brad who's just kind of normal. He's actually funny because he's always mean. And then Adam is just another normal one. But I think in the new series, there's Robzilla. What the fuck just happened? Okay, we moved. There's like Robzilla and shit, who is like a new addition. But yeah, the guy that he was talking about, Jason Genova, is so hilarious. But I'm trying to find it. Oh yeah, Lenny. He said, He's talking about dancing, and he's arguing. He's like, men shouldn't dance. And he goes, who has danced throughout history? Women, slaves, and F-slurs. And he just goes out and fucking says it, and it's so fucking hilarious. What the hell happened?
Amazing.
Oh, okay, everybody's here. Yeah.
I hope no one's
How long
switched
has this
together.
podcast been going on?
Actually, a long time. They only have like 70-something episodes, but it's been like 3 or 4 years, I think. Maybe even
They do
more.
it like once every week or two.
They've had...
I started one this morning, and they were like, "Hey, sorry guys, it's been 2 weeks," and I was like, "Jesus." So
Well,
I mean,
right now it's been a month, because Lenny got arrested for Molly. But
he didn't do nothing. He a good boy.
yeah, free
He's
Lenny,
making
free
money.
big Lenny. But
I would fight a
they
cop
have a
with-
YouTube show, quote unquote, with like a couple hundred episodes, I think. So they've been doing that for a long time, since probably like 2014. Check it out. It's super. Oh, it's so funny. Like, what's the one? 74?
It's gonna be
Is that
weird
the
whenever
one?
you got-
I wasn't
got a
sure.
podcast deep enough where you got fucking lore and shit.
But you
Yeah.
don't. That's
Oh,
the
yeah,
only
dude,
reason I watched it,
honestly-
because I told Flo I wasn't gonna listen to shit. But then,
Yeah.
it's literally, it's just a bunch of gym bros who you don't even have to know who's talking. You can hear one guy's voice is very different, and that's Lenny. And that's all you need to know is he's the older guy in the group that's kind of like the anchor, and everyone else is around him.
I'd look
They're
up
all
a
right
picture
wing
of him.
Yeah, they're all center, right wing, pretty, they grew up in the 80s, 90s. They talk the same way as if they grew up in the 80s and 90s.
They talk about doing steroids and SARMs and drugs and shit all the time and going to strip clubs. Lenny is also a fucking degenerate. He made something up called I can't remember the order because they've changed it a few times, but I'm pretty sure it's 10, tan, 10. It's a 10 with face and personality, like 10 out of 10. Tan, like tan skin, whether it's like tanned or that's just a racial thing. And 10-inch dick minimum. 10 tan 10s, baby. He loves transsexuals.
He loves getting really fucked up on GHB.
Is that what they're talking about, G? Because he seems to be doing that all the time. That can be good.
Yeah, I used to fucking do it. So, it's just fucking...
But he's
you hear him
also
talk
on like
about,
the fucking death stack of steroids. Like he lists off the substances, and it's like 9 or 10 different things. And then GHB, and then MDMA apparently. It's like, how is this motherfucker?
Well, because like I hung out with 2 gym bros, and that's when I got introduced to nitrous. And they were like, it was all about what can you do to get fucked up that doesn't fuck with your diet or your gains. Pretty fucking simple. Fucking things that make you go fast or things that fucking get you sideways. Mushrooms don't have calories. Acid doesn't have calories. GHB doesn't have calories. Guess what? GHB and nitrous are sold at fucking GNC stores. So fuck it. Why not try those?
That's so funny. Get your fucking protein powder and your nitrous tanks, and I got 99 packs of balloons. All right, our guest is here. We got to slide.
Bye-bye.
Peace. What's up, man?
Hey, how's it going? Sorry, I just
Good.
had to do a little laundry removal.
Oh, yeah. No problem. Oh, so I've been trying to set this up for forever, and shit just kept happening. But finally, you're here.
Yeah.
So, I know only about you what I've heard from your call-ins to Killstream and that sort of thing.
Sure.
You were involved in the Fox News Corporation, is that right? Or
So I think I need to clarify this, because when someone says Fox News, what they need to realize is that it's not just TV station or Fox Business. That's one, like, of the umbrella that is News Corp.
Sure.
It breaks down into this thing called Fox TV stations, whatever it is. And so from there, that Fox TV stations branch in News Corp, which, I mean, also branches off into, like, I believe they still own Sky, if I recall correctly. But there's subdivisions of this. So a subdivision of Fox TV stations, like whatever it is, LLC. I don't think it's an LLC, but whatever it is.
Yeah, that's why I was like, when I said corporation, I was like, I don't even know if that's. Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, it's like it's not necessarily like a shell company type thing, but it's just like it's like a tree of things, like a vertical tree that just has branching down roots type stuff.
Gotcha. Yeah, there's a parent company all at the top.
Right.
And
so,
you said
like,
that was
parent
News
company-
Corp.
Well, News Corp is like the top official business, like the Rupert Murdoch stuff, and then it goes like one example of the branching path, which would come to where I work would be Fox TV stations. Then from there, that branches off into like Big Fox News, Fox Business. Now they just opened like Fox Weather or whatever the fuck it is. But what I was on technically what's a local level. So when you watch like whatever the networks like ABC, NBC, Fox, CBS, not all those stations are owned by the company. They're affiliate networks. Some of the stations are, not all of them. Most of the stations, like if you recall, there was that viral video that went out that recorded like 50 different stations owned by Sinclair that they mandated their anchors read out this statement, and you go from station to station to station.
I do remember that, actually.
Yeah, so that was a mandate put out by Sinclair Broadcasting. Sinclair Broadcasting owns the most. I believe they're the largest. They're the largest owner of like regional TV news networks. So they have a lot of say.
Okay, Sinclair.
Yeah. Other ones are like EW Scripps. Tribune used to be one, but they got bought out by a company called Nexstar 2 years ago. And so I just happen to work at one that was owned by Fox.
Gotcha.
ABC, cool. Like ABC owns some of their own, CBS owns some of their own, etc.
Okay.
But I got like I like under Fox you have access to a lot of things. Like you get like free LinkedIn Pro, so you can like if you want to learn whatever like free classes. They're not free if you have Pro, but you get the free Pro, so you can access the classes and things like that.
I got you.
They have a store you can buy from. You get special discounts, but unfortunately they were only in LA and New York City because that's their two big hubs.
What do they sell at the Fox store?
Well, it depends on like so they do a lot of like shows or something like that. So like when they brought on Lego Master, we could get discounted Legos. There is that.
Cool. That's actually probably worth it, man. Jesus.
Oh yeah, for cool. Just for like gifts and stuff.
Yeah,
resell them things on eBay.
Yeah, they were kind of limited sets, but it was still like the principal thing. I think in LA it was the only place like in the campus that sold cigarettes, so that was important to a lot of those people.
Whoa, that's crazy. Discounted cigarettes.
I don't know if those
as long as you're shopping
specific?
at the company store.
Again, I never went to the LA lot. So.
Like you gotta understand. Like imagine if that came out that Fox only pushes Marlboros because it
wouldn't surprise me.
Not publish those.
I mean, if you could get ads, that would be like not a brand deal, but that would be they made like a market deal. It's just like how Coca-Cola is exclusive, like McDonald's and Coca-Cola, like they only sell Coke there, not Coke and Pepsi.
Yeah. I got you. So, what was your job title, if you're down to go into that?
I mean, I was a producer.
Okay. Well, I guess what does a producer do? In like a news media.
In a news media, so the producers, it can vary technically, but I mean, as far as like what I did. I don't view it as that complicated. A lot of people do. So what the producers do is they do what the executive producer tells them. Actually, correct answer. And the executive producer does what the newsroom director tells that person to do, and the newsroom director does what the GM tells them to do, and creative services. But
so it's like a managerial structure.
So but as far as like the active part is you do what's referred to as boothing, which is you basically run an hour of news.
You said
So
boothing, right?
booth, yeah.
Yeah, it sounded like boofing.
Oh, sorry. No,
Sorry,
not
had
that.
to. Boonjacking.
Yeah. So what ends up happening typically is you get in, well, I mean, if you're doing morning news, basically you report what was your big stories are usually from the last night's news, and then the early morning, the early afternoon news is the morning's news. It's literally just like 16 stories juggled around in different orders between the hours of news. To be honest, for your local news, you have your big national stories, your big local stories. It's basically previously decided upon what the top story of the day is. In the top story, there's a lot of breaking news in the morning because you get a lot of overnight stuff, especially if you live in a city where there's going to be murders and car crashes and stuff like that, and reckless driving, etc.
Yeah, I gotcha.
So, basically, you just kind of you copy a lot from the AP or whatever newswire service you have.
So are you actually finding content for them to, or like looking
put
at
that
sources
you
and
put
stuff?
that in the suggestions, but a lot of times you don't get listened to because it's not news. That's a big thing.
That pushes like a certain agenda. Did you find that to be the case?
The agenda pushing is usually done with how you verbalize how it's written, and you get to editorialize some of it, but not all of it. There's certain situations where things have to be read as written prior to you, but if you're like a lot of times, especially after like the George Floyd stuff, like we had to selectively choose when we could use the word riot. That was a big controversy. Oh, you
Oh,
can't
yeah,
say
that makes
can't say
sense.
riot, and then there'd always be one news anchor who always refused to say riot. They just like oh, it's always civil unrest. No matter what, it's civil unrest. I don't care what you say. It's civil unrest. It's civil unrest. And then you show like fires and other shit.
Mostly fiery, but mostly peaceful. That was like a
So, yeah,
huge meme.
yeah. So it's a lot of that. And it's just it's a lot of not getting listened to, and it's a lot of just like shoveling shit because at the end of the day, you're not exactly valued because they feel they can replace you, even though it takes 3+ months to like replace somebody. And the big problem is like the ego of anchors, because you're putting your neck out on the line by whether you wrote a story or you picked a story from like the allowable stuff that's like good to run, because like at the end of an hour they'll do a kicker, and the kicker is usually super lighthearted. It's like, oh, look at the San Diego Zoo, the penguins are out again doing whatever.
Like
And
a
you're like,
palate cleanser almost.
exactly. Yeah, you don't want to go into the next hour of news basically like coming up at the top of the hour. We have four dead today. Like
A child sex trafficking ring discovered.
right, exactly.
And they all went free.
Right, something like that.
I got you.
Yeah. So what is the purpose of that? Because like I've just never dug into that. Why? Is it just a palate cleanser, more or less?
It's mostly a palate cleanser, and it's also to say that like, oh, we don't just run negative stories. That's another big thing. If you say, well, all the news sucked today, all the news was negative, and
Oh,
then
I got you.
and you're like, no, I'm out the door. You're out the door at the end of the hour. You're gonna see the viral video clip of this super awesome gender reveal party.
Yeah, I got you. Yeah, they
water,
and then
water,
go ahead.
squirrel.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, water skating
squirrel.
squirrel. Yeah. That the media I think does that a lot where they'll do some small blip of something just so they can say, "Oh, we did actually cover this." And that sort of thing, like just some very clever ways of
I think one of the major problems in news is that inherently, just by human nature, we actually we're more concerned with the bad things happening because I mean, it's been used for fear mongering in modern days, but initially speaking, it's like, well, if Jack the Ripper's on the loose in the Victorian London or whatever, like, we want you to know that there's somebody out there murdering people and he's not caught. I don't care that like Ophelia down the road got straight A's in her whatever class. That's whatever.
I wonder why we haven't heard about a serial killer I feel like in my whole lifetime, is there like a trend in the media to not follow that stuff because of copycats? Or, I mean, you hear about mass murders all the time.
I've never had to deal with it, but the last serial killer I think you can consider a serial killer would be the DC Sniper.
Yeah, it has kind of. But I mean, that's what I mean. They're probably out and about. You just don't hear about them as much as you might have. I think
they probably exist
30 years ago.
far as it's they're being preyed upon in like homeless areas. Like there's probably a serial killer in Skid Row right now. There's probably a serial killer in Boise, which I believe is like the #1 place that teens run away to.
Really, fucking Idaho.
Yeah, we're thinking of serial rapists, right? Like how many?
Well, I think serial rape is probably a lot easier to get rid of than serial murder.
Yeah.
Because usually, from what I understand, after watching a lot of Law and Order SVU over the years, the first thing a lot of women do is take a shower after, and that kind of like fucks up the rape kit.
That could be. That's probably a lot. I think a lot of rapes go probably unreported just because it's such a psychologically fucking horrible
That's what they say.
I mean, it wouldn't surprise me. Like, I would just be like, fuck it. I mean, I don't know. Well, if it were me, I would just take the law into my own hands.
I'm paranoid about that shit. When I was in college, that was the start of Obama mandating his like education secretary to mandate in colleges that you have to like teach men not to rape.
Oh, it's crazy. It definitely has changed. I can't imagine going to
college these days.
It's definitely changed the whole modus operandi of most men, single men.
Yeah. I mean, that's probably scarred me mentally for life. I've only had a few relationships out of college, and it's not really been all that long.
Yeah, I mean, I can understand that. It is just, it's like you got to get a fucking contract or something, non-disclosure agreement.
I was, God, I can't remember who. I think I was talking to one of my friends, and he was just like, "Oh yeah, why haven't you started dating again?" I'm just like, it's kind of hard, and you're still. I mean, I'm not totally paranoid about COVID anymore. I think I really like fucking took the COVID pill like early on, and like even as far back as 2019. But I was talking to my buddy, and I just explained all this to him, and he's just like, "Yeah, that is you're kind of fucked in the head now, aren't you?" It's like, yeah, a little bit.
Well, I mean,
all it takes is one bad experience for a woman to come up and just like shame you. Like half of my girlfriends, since graduating college have been from my fucking gym.
Yeah, I mean, it's even professionally though. Like in a professional setting, you have to. I wouldn't be caught alone with a woman in a room. Like
that's the fucking Mike Pence rule.
Yeah, I'm hover handing like crazy, bro.
No, but that's the funny thing about news is that every single time like a new girl, whether they're on camera or off camera and they're known to be like single, like every single guy in news is just like the fucking meat's back on the menu tonight, boys. Which I just couldn't even imagine. So I'm like, that's the last place that I want to like. Not that some of these girls aren't like good looking or like not even like not maybe they're cool or whatever, but it's just like I don't want to fucking get like be the Me Too guy at the fucking office.
They're gonna get Matt Lauered real fucking quick, probably.
Yeah,
Matt Lauer deserved it. Fuck that guy.
Together. Yeah, but anytime you have people work together, it's just human nature. You can only have boys and girls working together in the same place for so long before, you're gonna be like, you know what, fuck it, maybe dating at work isn't that bad of an idea. She's cool. She's not gonna make my job miserable in 3 years. That blowjob's totally gonna be worth it. I'm sure of it.
Oh man, yeah.
I wasn't there for this, but all the people that like work there in the engineering department, they would talk about how there's actually some people, I think they were in the accounting and didn't think anyone was in the building anymore, but were caught having sex in their office. It actually happened, and there was nobody ever punished them for anything. It was funny. It used to be the Wild West, and then things got all cramped down when they actually decided to pay attention with HR.
Yeah, I think in some ways it's good, in some ways it's bad, but it's definitely impacted everybody in some type of way.
It's more heavy-handed in my opinion. It's like, oh, we're just playing it safe, and like, no, you're not just playing it safe. You're being I guess what would be the equivalent of like a helicopter parent.
So one thing I was trying to figure out that I've looked up, and I've seen varying levels of data on this. So when you judge how many people are watching your TV show on their end, that is, how do you know that? How do you understand that they get that data? Is it from the box that's upstairs, or did you guys have a more complex way as things have gone digital?
That would be an answer for Nielsen specifically. There's like two companies that do like television ratings. Nielsen is, I believe, the older one,
Hmm.
and they used to go as far as just like they used to send out journals to houses, and then they'd be like, record what you watched and when you watched it, and then send us this, and
Yeah.
here's Chris $50 bill, and that would be being in a Nielsen house. I think they
Dang,
send
I
out.
wish that was still a thing.
I mean, it still is a thing. I think they send you boxes that hook up to your cable box. In my opinion, I feel like that's still outdated technology, but I don't fully understand it all. It's a little bit more beyond like my pay grade because I'm not a computer programmer. But from what I understand, at least when I was kind of like explained the system, not I guess I learned it more in college than I ever. We never really outside of like, hey, the ratings are good now, and then they'd send out like a congratulatory email, and they still
Hmm.
even tried to keep that under wraps to certain people because I think they wanted to play producers against each other to some extent to be like, oh, your hours are suffering or something like that. Oh, your hour was really good this week. And they're
Keep
just
them
little.
competing.
Yeah, exactly. Which is dumb because most of the producers during the either whenever they're on are usually pretty cool together because at some point you have to when you have to hand off a show, so like you inherit the last block of the previous producer and then the person after you inherits your last block. So you
Oh.
guys and then there's always the other fuckery that happens is you have to self-report your mistakes on air. But in terms of Nielsen ratings, it's
No, sorry, I was muted. What do you mean self-report your errors?
so you have to, and this might not be the same at every station, but you have to file a discrepancy report. So let's say there was a misspelling on a graphic, um, uh, uh, we dipped to black briefly, um, the sound on tape was wrong, something to that extent. Or in the case of like, oh, maybe an editor fucked up and or maybe you dragged over the wrong package because there's usually three different versions of a package that goes out. One that is like without the reporter, one's or I mean there's probably five different versions. There's like a B-roll version, there's one with the person who did the story. There's a person that uh yeah, there's a version that's just the sound on tape, which might just be an audio clip and some extra B-roll, and then there might be just some slop that is used for something else down the line.
Mm.
So, like I said, you have to self-report if you drag like, oh, we played the wrong clip. Oh, we were too heavy going into this break. We had to drop all these stories. Well, we had to do this. We had to do that. But as long as you get in like your top four stories, and then you do your little adorable kicker, which usually stays in because it's like 30 seconds as opposed to up to 90 seconds for some stories. And
Did you so you had to do 4 stories plus the kicker, and did you say there was like 16 stories per hour?
um, it comes out to around. I would estimate it's 16. The thing is that is up to an individual producer. Like there was one producer when he was just like I don't even know what you'd refer to like very nervous and anxious constantly. So what he would do, he would overpad his show. So in the event he has to drop a story, it would be like drop, 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 because he didn't want to run out of stories to cause the anchors to have to like ad lib for the last 2 or 3 minutes. So
Oh
I would
yeah, that
estimate
might be
I
a
put in
disaster.
around yeah, I would estimate it's around 16, maybe 20, but the I would say the top four stories are like the important ones, and then you also have to insert during certain hours. For us, I believe it was the 7 o'clock hour, if I recall correctly. We would run a national package, but there are plenty of national packages and other like Fox affiliate stuff. like, oh, this one comes from Fox whatever Minnesota, Fox whatever Michigan, Fox whatever
Yeah, I've seen them do that.
stuff like that. Which it's funny because certain editors aren't skilled enough, and they try and edit out when they tag their station as not like Fox. They'll like they'll try and mute out like, oh, this is Fox 34. They'll try and like Fox 34 News. They'll be like Fox News.
Oh my goodness, that's hilarious.
Smart.
I mean, you think it's smart, but what they don't do is the problem is usually that's an on-camera tag by the ink or the reporter rather, so you can see their lips moving for a second.
Oh yeah.
And
people
like,
probably just assume it's like a connection.
I don't
error
think
or
people
something.
who are watching news, to be honest, are intently watching it unless they're over the age of 50 at this point.
Yeah.
They've lost the youth and they don't know it.
So you ended up leaving that industry?
I mean, I'm probably gonna go back in it just at a different place. The work environment was just getting too. I just didn't really like the work environment. The people around me were really pissing me off. And I mean, to some extent, I can understand why you kind of have to be an asshole in news, but it's just like it's. I'm trying to basically be better at my job, and you're either throttling us or you're in some sense you could argue it's censorship, but I don't see it that way. I just don't really have another word for it. Maybe silencing to some point, and more or less ignoring stuff that I would think would be excellent news that you would want to share to people. Like for example, I have I met like a really talented chef, and they do like morning news does a lot of like, oh, here's the whatever chef here they're making this dish or whatever, and
stand-up comedians too, yeah.
Yeah, so yeah, I mean, they try and fill stuff. Obviously, last year was kind of a pain in the ass. There were no studio guests. It was so mind-numbingly bad. For nonstop of like 7 months, every story in some form or fashion was related to COVID-19, and you're just like, can we find something else? Even the fucking kicker stories, if you think about it, they're like, what was it? I think it was penguins at like the Chicago Zoo. They let the penguins out at the Chicago Zoo. Now they're touring the aquarium or something like that.
Yeah, because of COVID, yeah.
Exactly. So it all relates and all circles back.
That shit. Yeah, my own fucking mom was like, "Oh my god, look at this," and I'm like, "Yeah, like that's like the worst advertising ever." Hey guys, look at the zoo. By the way, you can't go to the zoo.
Exactly.
Like,
you can't go to the zoo.
Yeah, like fuck you. I can't even go to the goddamn zoo that I'm looking at.
What I'm also curious about is like, they vaccinated like those gorillas in San Diego, and I'm like, how did they catch COVID? What were your zookeepers doing?
Fucking them.
Right.
Are we not? I mean, that
I didn't even think that, but it wouldn't surprise me after that dolphin documentary I watched.
Yeah, but then there was a whole like they vaccinated the gorillas, and then I just remember hearing people because of how much disinformation there was about COVID, and it was in like I'll go into a little bit more like the frustration about it in a minute. But people thought the vaccine the gorillas were getting were like the vaccine that like were also meant for humans, because they're like, well, our DNA is so similar, they could probably take that. It's like probably they're wasting vaccines on gorillas. Like, no.
How many gorillas are there?
I think it's like, I don't know, it might have been like 8 or something like that. I don't know. I didn't pay too close attention to it. I just knew that there were gorillas getting COVID in like San Diego, and they got vaccinated.
It was very concerning how
a family of 8. That is literally one family of immigrants in San Diego at the welfare place. So don't give me that the gorillas are hogging up all the vaccines for the county. Like, that's one family. You know what I mean? So, like, what the fuck? It's 8. What's the matter?
It's even more concerning how people were just tripping over themselves to get it when it came out. Like, oh, they'd be like, we've only got 5 vaccines and they're going bad today. Get on down to Joe Sims Vaccine Mart. They were giving him fucking everywhere.
Now they're everywhere. Initially, it was like, I remember there was at least like I think initially around me they started it. They just kept it at like they like changed the testing centers into vaccination centers, and then as like more became available, they were at like certain pharmacies. I think initially it was like Walgreens got the deal, and then CVS followed, and then like independent pharmacies after that. I think some of the independent pharmacies, because people don't necessarily always think about it, around me at least, like they managed to get a bunch of them, and they're like, nobody's coming to us because they're not thinking of us because you're not talking that we have them.
Yeah,
But
I could see that. Like small businesses are so rare, anyways.
especially pharmacies.
Yeah, that's kind of a niche thing. I mean, there's such a network with doctors and healthcare and pharmaceuticals and stuff. I bet you kind of have to do networking to get into that sort of thing. But it's probably just people that have owned them for a long, long time.
That's my
because it
best
probably
guess.
wasn't always that way.
It couldn't have been.
Okay, so tell me about you said the anchors, they had egos sometimes that would get a little out of control. Do you have any like stories of that?
Oh, okay. So, I mean, I think the biggest thing is them not actually reading their teleprompter.
Going rogue.
Well, yeah. So sometimes, like, you write your story, it's been more or less approved by the EP, because, and the other thing is like they don't read like a lot of them don't read their scripts beforehand. Like, they're not professional. I mean, not this is not true for all. It's not true for all of them, but usually it's a specific one. Usually, they've been there for a while. Like, I know the show. I can just show up and I can just cruise control my way through it, and then all of a sudden there's something in there and you didn't know that it had a pronouncer on it and you don't know how to pronounce that name, and so you'll just
It's
like,
called Niger. It's a country called Niger.
no, it's Niger now, please.
Niger.
So every movie we've ever seen about some anchors, there's a little bit of truth in that.
Yeah, I mean, there's some truth to Anchorman, but here's the biggest way to fuck yourself up when reading a teleprompter, and this only happens sometimes, and only like the best of the best can do it, and only I would say if you know the story beforehand. Like let's say it's a sports story, and you're like, oh, I know the local sports team in and out, and like as you like put up the your lead, which is like the first sentence, or possibly very rarely should be the first two sentences of the story. You put in your lead. You do that. Maybe they didn't like the first they thought something was more important, so they ad libbed the start of it, and then then they go into it. But the problem is they thought that was more important than what you put in there. So now what's later in the script is what they started with. So now they get lost because they don't have a point to really jump off of. If you see what I'm saying.
Yeah, I can understand that. It's just like they're cocky.
That's cold sweat. Oh,
Yeah.
that'd be a cold sweat for me that you're like, oh, I can't jump off. I don't know what to do. You're like, I'm just up here just bullshitting for the next 30 seconds until someone saves me with the weather.
Yeah, you have to rely on and hopefully you have a person who understands the situation running the teleprompter. But the problem is the prompter is trying to follow along with your words. So the person is listening to and reading what you're supposed to be reading out loud, and trying to match your cadence and like your flow. And the problem is you stop and they're like, they stop. You fuck them up, and then who gets blamed for all that? Well, in the descripts it says it was the producer and the teleprompter's fault, not the anchor. And the other thing is the anchor never gets punished. They have contracts, sure, that's fine. You know, they have a contract, but like, bring them in the office and tell them to read the fucking script. But that never happens.
Wow, man, I should have been a fucking news anchor.
How many years have they been doing that? Because like in my head, it's like 5 to 10. Like you would really want to pick out your own teleprompter guy, right?
Well, here's the problem with that is, a morning show, at least the morning show that I worked on, was like a fucking morning zoo. Which I guess all morning shows have become like morning zoos.
Yeah, after Howard Stern and Opie and Anthony and all that shit.
Yeah, but it's like the most PG version, but it's like, hey, we're wacky.
Woo, soundboard.
Yeah, and the thing is, like, when everyone found out I worked at this station or whatever, and they'd be like, oh yeah, how's so-and-so in real life? How's this person? How's that person? I'm like, oh, you work with that guy? He's really lame. And I'm like, actually, if you really got to know him, he's a cool guy, but he really puts on a shtick for the TV. Like, he's actually, like, oh, he's actually really cool. And they're like, oh yeah, how's this person? I like him. He's so fun. I'm like, that dude is the biggest fucking asshole ever. Like, he thinks he's such hot shit. The weatherman I worked with, I mean, he literally should not have been the chief weatherman. He should not have been. He was probably only a chief because of tenure. Like, but
He was
his
real
forecast
shitty at it.
his forecast always wrong, or frequently wrong, I should say. And all of his data charts very vague to the point you couldn't understand it. And so he'd see like, oh, this person's calling me out on Facebook. I never said that. I never said that. Don't ever say I said that. It'd always be like, it has there's a potential for higher than usual temperatures, and it's like it's 10 degrees below what you expected. And the other things, I literally do not understand TV or radio forecast anymore. It serves zero purpose. I open my phone, it tells me it's 74 degrees outside today.
Well, yeah, and then, like you're saying, they're frequently wrong. I think that is kind of common a lot. Like, you could just Google something and get, like, an aggregation of, like, tens of thousands of people's opinion, probably.
How often am I on my phone during the day? Pretty fucking often. What does the first thing on my home screen pop up and say? Oh, it's 73 degrees. Where my location is, what time it is, what the date is. And then
What's
if I
the
need
top
more
news stories?
right.
I mean, fuck, on like I just reset my second phone to a factory.
Mm-hmm.
If I swipe to the right, it has all the top news stories. It has the weather. It's got the fucking weather for tomorrow. It's got 3 websites that I have open. And if I just keep scrolling down, it says local to me, top stories, top U.S. stories, events to go on this weekend, and then at the very bottom, it's got some stats about my phone.
And
This took the place of every 6 o'clock and 11 o'clock channel or news story. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So in the past, I mean, they've probably been trying to do this for a while. But it really became a big push for my station, I think, within the last 3 years, and it was pushing OTT content, or over the top, which is basically pushing them to our website or our app, or apps rather. It's making them use our app so they can push ads, get revenue. I mean,
that's so disgusting. I hate seeing that shit, and I get it.
I mean, it's so predictable, but you understand it to a point. It's a business strategy, and it's what you need to do in a modern age. But the fact that you can't get people to really tune into your own shit is on air is kind of an issue.
I first noticed it when radio stations were talking about when they were pushing their social media
or whatever.
Yeah. It started with iHeartRadio, then real quickly it was like, hey, join us on the Facebook group, and you can vote on the next song. You can talk about the events going on, and then
you can see
do,
today's
like,
daily dog.
voting.
Join in on the conversation.
Yes, that's it. Join in on conversation is what is every iHeartRadio fucking channel says.
You know what the funny thing about iHeart is, though, is that they went bankrupt, but they're still allowed to hold an award show. They're in like chapter 11 right now.
That's crazy. It just goes to show you that all this shit is untenable. Like, I mean, there's so much money changing hands with the ads and stuff like that, but as far as, like, you know, royalties.
The other thing it goes to show, I was going to say, the other thing it goes to show is that like, if you have enough debt, you're not actually in trouble. Like, if you have millions in debt, you're not in trouble. If you have thousands in debt, you're fucked. It's just because it's the bank's problem once you have that much debt. When it's not a lot, it's your problem.
Well, yeah, and they have an incentive to let you keep going because you might dig yourself out of the hole. They can't take an L that huge.
But I think where iHeartRadio mildly succeeds is on their app. Their app, whether it's using the web app or using the phone app. I think there's a fair amount of following and some value, rivaling that of like a Pandora. Maybe not a Spotify, because I hear the kids like that one a lot.
Yeah, it has the radio integration. I think that's the big thing. I'm not so, like, a song algorithm is not, you know, that's old fucking news. You could hire somebody to make one of those, probably custom to you or something.
I mean, that's basically the idea behind Pandora.
Right, and then so they added that with the radio feature, and I think, and then all of the concerts that they put on, I think, was probably wise.
Yeah, in terms of, like, their success, I think that I think the success of radio is basically just talk shows. That's all that's left. And the problem with talk shows is they basically have to be political in some nature, and you get successful by either focusing on hyper. You have to start hyper local, I suppose, and maybe find some story that is not like heavily being talked about, and then people find you interesting because you're like, oh, this person's really doing some sleuthing, which I guess is closer to real journalism than anything else.
Yeah. Shoot, I just forgot what I was gonna say. I got distracted by a DM. But
I would say back to the apps. I think most people would generally use whatever Pandora, iHeartRadio works better in your vehicle's infotainment, right? So BMW's going to set up BMW, Chrysler's Chrysler, which is FCA. But, the wife used to use one app, and now she's on another app when we got a new car because it works better on the infotainment center.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not super technical
it's
with
the
that
same on the
stuff.
phone,
I'm mostly just Bluetooth.
Well, I'm saying like if you don't want to run everything through your phone like I do, and you just want to like sit down in the car, your phone automatically connects to the 5 icons on the screen, and you just say like GPS, music, whichever music icon works the best is generally what the average consumer is going to use.
It's a non-zero amount.
Yeah, so I mean, you're gonna have, some iHeartRadio probably has some. Look at OnStar. OnStar had a huge cell phone contract that went along with Chevy. Hats off to them for figuring that shit out.
I want to know. I want to know who was making the money off that deal. Was it OnStar paying to be part of these things, so people could have to be part of the subscription service of OnStar after like the free trial ended, or was it the car company paying OnStar to say this is like our new fancy additional feature?
It was probably a little bit of both in the beginning, but then later on it would have to be OnStar, making subscription money.
Yeah, because it's all through GM. Because if you don't set it up the first time, it's fucking useless. Like, you can't call OnStar and say, hey, I'm looking at my keys inside. They'll just tell you, hey, get fucked. You didn't set it up for the first time. You can't give us money now. You have to give us money when you first start.
Retroactively.
Yeah, you can't do it.
So, did you say, like, anchor freakouts? Were there any of those? Do they like to throw chairs?
It's ridiculous. Not on air, I would say. Most people keep it professional on air.
Okay.
The one time I've seen someone get angry was a sports guy, and so he was tasked with going down to spring training for the local sports ball team, for the baseball team, and the graphics people and creative services were using like a 10-year-old photo of him, and he didn't like the photo. And so they're like running these graphics of like so and so is going to be down here for spring training, and it has this photo of him. He's just like, because this happened over the course of
that would irritate the fuck out of me.
It happened over the course of like 5 days. Like this was a week long running saga, where he where it's just like he's just talking to the producer like, hey, so and so, can you can we update this photo? And then it's like next day, hey guys, I told you that I want this photo updated. There's plenty like available on the servers of me, whatever, just like fix it please. And then like by day 4, it was like, for the 4th fucking time, I have told them that I am so sick of this. I do not like this photo. It is 10 years old. Can you please update this? I don't want to have to go talk to upper management basically.
Yeah, that would drive me up the wall. I bet you he was just like emailing the wrong person, as in like it was he was emailing somebody that
he was expecting people to do it
himself.
for him. Well, he couldn't update the graphics himself because I'm pretty sure he doesn't even know how to use Photoshop at all.
I gotcha.
But the people in creative services or the editors who make these graphics for you, it's just like he wouldn't know how to. He was expecting the producer to relate to the EP, who is going to relate to creative services and fix it all.
Yeah, that's what I mean. He should have got in contact with the proper person instead of
the irony being that the sports office is right next to creative services.
He could have walked it. That's great.
Yeah.
He's just
So that was
sending
the big one.
passive aggressive emails, escalating the situation.
like that is the corporate world. It's nothing but passive aggressive. Like, and the other thing is like most people, you know, you get a degree in communications or something like that. And the big joke about communications is that nobody can do it.
Yeah, I mean it's accurate.
It's always been that way since even when I was in
like
college.
with mainstream news.
It's just nobody takes responsibility for anything, and if you do take it's the same case of like credit and blame are the same, mean the same thing but have different connotations. Everyone wants the credit, nobody wants the blame.
Oh,
It's
you're
like,
right. I never thought about it like that
That's
before.
very well put. Yeah.
It's like everybody, you know, you want the benefits.
I'm to blame for this glorious thing. I'm to blame for this show.
Yeah, I just remember I'd be running like a 430 or something like that, and so it's I'd be like, oh, this okay, that graphic was wrong, and you tell you go into I mean, over the years we switched, but I think I don't think we were using Microsoft Teams at the end. I think we were using we were using Slack. So I get in the Slack, I get in the Slack chat, and I just like, hey, just so you guys know, this graphic needs to be updated. I basically leave after my show, so you guys need to update this graphic. And then the graphic is wrong until the 9 o'clock hour or something like that.
Oh, that would be horrible. Just all the elements of like a produced live show like that having to work together. I mean,
right.
What was it? Can you remember like a close call that happened where like something was majorly screwed up with what was about to happen next?
Here's one of the big ones. So when they're reporting, during all the COVID-19 stuff, I think they finally stopped reporting numbers right around the time I was leaving, but restrictions are still in place, which was super annoying. So they would put up the numbers, and they'd be like, amount of like, it'd be like infections recovered, whatever the fucking numbers were.
Yeah, whatever the other one was.
Yeah, exactly. So like your typical graphics you've probably seen from CNN to fucking your local news station if you ever wasted your time to watch it. But the numbers wouldn't add up. And they got so bad, like, even, okay, sure, they're flashing a graphic for maybe 5 seconds, and you're like, well, maybe they were close, like in terms of like, oh, you're looking at the 7 million, and then there's like a 6 million below it, and then you're looking for the rest of the people, and you're like, I can do the quick addition here. That clearly will not even reach 7 million or something like that.
I've seen some of those screenshots over the last year and a half, and you're like, you know, and you wonder why so many people start questioning shit when your own fucking numbers don't even add up correctly. And they're like, look, 6 million plus 1 million equals 13 million dead. And you're like, what?
Yeah. So
the
other thing,
what kind of fucking cookie cutter oven are you operating
you
over
motherfucker.
there,
one of the big things that I was told,
Chad, bro, I just gotta say, cookie cutter is a Big Lenny term, and we just started listening. I'm gonna post a picture of Big Lenny in the general, but go ahead.
Oh, Big Lenny, yeah, I know Big Lenny.
Yeah, cookie cutter.
The terrible bodybuilder guy.
Yeah, you cookie cutter porno addicts.
Yeah, I found out about him from I think it was Beige Frequency did a documentary, and
yes.
Joe was that guy
Jason Genova.
Yeah, he did that, and then he did one on Big Lenny too.
Oh yeah, cookie cutter porno addicts.
God.
You should check out the Dank Net videos if you haven't seen those. He's like a smaller one, and they're less produced, but they're so entertaining. And you can tell because he's like a true fan, and he was part of the forums and the Reddits and all the shit, so he has an actual perspective on it. If they're not, as long and well researched as Beige's are. Beige is a true fucking master, in my opinion.
Yeah, but it takes forever. And I'm still trying to figure out if Beige is a chick or not. I thought it was a dude for the longest time, and I swear I was looking at his Twitter one day, and he said that I'm a chick.
I think he's a black dude, like a skinny black dude or something.
Oh, no, he's not skinny, because I remember him talking on Twitter that he needed to lose like 20 pounds to get down to like 215.
Oh, okay, well, geez, I hope that's not a chick.
I think he's a short, fat white guy.
Really? I swear he sounds black. I don't know why, but like he just reminds me, whenever my like headcanon for him is, I don't know what show it's from, but there's like a black kid with round glasses and he's got a backpack on or something. But that's what that's just what I think beige is. Them, they, whatever the fuck.
I mean, the problem is dude changes the Twitter handle constantly anyway.
But I mean, he got a video that got copy struck by Bent Pixels, which is Joe Rogan's company, about Brendan Schaub. I mean, that's just such a baller thing to have done.
But that's back up though, right?
Oh yeah.
I was gonna say, I swear, I got that video recommended. I'm like, I've already seen this one YouTube.
Yeah, the title is.
I think you'd be surprised.
I think you'd be surprised. The Made for Bent Pixels edition or something like that.
Oh, okay.
That's Bent Pixels, right there, and like, especially when you start realizing that was not picked up through AI. That someone had to manually go in and find this shit.
Oh, is
this?
That
you're like, okay, so you have
second upload.
Had to do a solid for his good boy Brendan.
Yeah, you're like, okay, so you just have a troll, like you have a host of people in India
that you're paying money to be like, go out and protect a little short man with the tiny arms. Go save him in his little midget tight jeans. Go save my friend. Here's money. Go find his reputation and save it because he fucking blows at comedy.
I think Beige had like 30K subscribers at the time. He wasn't even very significant.
I was
his
surprised
videos
I even
a lot of
got him recommended to me. That was the weird thing. Like, he wasn't big or anything. I guess he's still not. What is he, like, just over 100K or something like that? Maybe?
Just under 99
just under.
and a half.
It's still not huge technically.
Yeah, but, and I doubt Joe Rogan's out there copy striking people, but you know, I wonder who is in charge of that for Bent Pixels, or who was at that time. I
kind of just think it's funny that, like, I don't really follow like Reddit or anything, but the entire like Fighter and the Kid subreddit, occasionally in some of the MMA chats I'm in, they'll like cross post and I'll just like check it out, and then like it's dedicated to just hating the show now.
Oh dude, I need a friend like that, deeply embedded in the Reddit community.
There was an AMA they did with him, and then like they were just like making, because like there's so many memes about how terrible he is at speaking. And, like, one guy just kept referring to him as Brandon. And he's like, my name's Brendan, yo.
Oh, I've heard of that meme, I think.
He's just like, Brandon, just hear me out, dude.
Oh, my God. That is such a Reddit-level troll.
But he's just so stupid that he doesn't understand he's getting fucked with. So he kept responding down the chain.
Oh, man. How many times did he respond about? Do you remember?
I think like 2 or 3.
Oh, that's enough,
yeah, I know.
I mean, one's too many.
Well, right.
Do you guys...
Oh, go ahead.
Well, I learned this in the new Beige Frequency video. There's
the Diego Sanchez one?
Yeah, so he's got like that fucked up coach that is really just
They're
really
no longer
sketchy.
Together.
They're not, doing anything. But at one point, Dana White tweeted him. He put some some very like paranoid Twitter posts like, "Oh, this $1 billion corporation, the UFC, might send someone after me because I'm going to expose their secrets." And fucking Dana White said,
right?
He said, I'm going to send D. And then the guy went, who's D? And he said, D's nuts. It was so fucking funny.
It's amazing.
Oh, yeah. A literal, I think Dana's almost a billionaire now after the sale to WME or whatever the hell's
called. For sure. I mean, the UFC is
Fight Island
too.
Fight Island was funded by the Saudis. Or no, United Arab Emirates.
UAE, yeah.
Which it's funny because they called it Fight Island. It's like, but the thing is, Dana White fucking hyped it like we're buying an island, and everyone's like, it's gonna be a tropical paradise. And really, all it is it's a separate part of the UAE where it's like of like Abu Dhabi where there's a canal, so it's like technically a man-made island or something.
Oh yeah, I didn't look. They're not going to go too far away.
Everyone was thinking there's going to be a goddamn cage on the beach. They sent out, like, the ads. It was going to be like, oh, sweet, we're going outdoor MMA again. It'll be like, what was that? It was this old thing.
WrestleMania is what I thought it was.
I mean, that's kind of the vibe they wanted to sell it as. But yeah. I was thinking there was this old MMA event that happened in California in the mid-2000s. And it rained during it, and they didn't have a top covering, so it ended up getting the name, like, Wet and Wild. Because guys are just slipping over each other. It's a trip.
Oh, yeah. Joe posted the Danknet video on Big Lenny.
I see that.
Oh,
that
yeah.
is
Cookie
like
cutters.
Flo gets me on this bullshit, like peak autism. He tunes his head to my frequency of fucking
I
retardation.
do.
And he's like, you know what? I got a YouTube channel. And he won't tell me it's the channel. He'll send me one video. And I'll watch one video. And I'll come back 3 days later and be like, I watched 73 videos.
Yeah.
I watched his entire channel at work in 2.5 days. By the way, I barely slept and ate. But guess
Oh,
what?
man.
I watched an entire channel on, on how,
The
some
fitness community.
bodybuilder or
Yeah.
or by the way, did you know that Chris D'Elia really did have 3 abortions paid for? And you're like, what the fuck are you talking about?
And you're like, dude, it's been a rough week on Wednesdays.
So I take it you guys have also seen Porcelain's work then.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, his Joe Mattery stuff.
Dude,
God,
so when
I can't
Porcelain
believe he
was
got him
on
there for a 2-hour interview.
Yeah, when Porcelain was on the kill stream, I called in and I go, "Hey, it's me, Joe Matteries. Am I gonna be in your next documentary?" And I don't know if he posted that video or not. It's been a while since that happened, but he said that he did play a part in it. I was like, "Oh, well, legit."
Yeah,
Let's
like
see.
Porcelain's kind of like Jim Can't Swim, where they don't
JC
post
is
a lot,
amazing.
but when they do, it's crazy the level of people who follow like Jim Can't Swim.
I've had completely unrelated podcasts mention him, and you're like, hey, you watch him too? Like Kill Tony. What's his name? Tony Hinchcliffe.
Tony Hinchcliffe, yeah.
Yeah, he talked about that shit like forever ago. He was like, "Oh, yeah, Jim Can't Swim," and you're like, "Oh, you too?"
A lot of people
It's just-
meme like the way he talks, and they use it as like a format when they make jokes and shit. He's pretty ubiquitous. I love Jim Can't Swim.
I don't think I've watched enough of his stuff. I think like he does a lot of what is it, like true crime documentary, right?
Well,
Yeah.
basically, it's just the police footage, and then he narrates it very sparsely, like only when he really needs to. And what he does when these people are getting interrogated, my favorite thing, is right when he feels like it's about where it is that they start lying, he'll stop and he'll be like, this is one of those crucial moments where a person can pick 2 paths, and then he breaks it down, and it's literally that is when it started to go sideways for them, and it's crazy. And then also he can be like, oh, well, an innocent person would typically do this, but you see how they're doing the opposite, and someone that's innocent wouldn't say this sort of thing in that way, or it's very interesting how he does the criminal psychology aspect of it.
Does he have any background in it or no?
He must. I mean, the way he speaks about it is so.
He's just watched enough the first 48 that he
maybe. I mean, honestly, with the internet and stuff,
Segura.
you could teach it you could teach it yourself just by being interested in it, and then
somebody had to figure out the study in the first place.
Yeah, just watching like police training videos or something. Watch enough of those and do enough research.
Like
you could probably do it without being a pro.
Like that Boy Scout who built a nuclear reactor in his backyard.
Oh yeah. Who did a video on that?
I've definitely seen some videos, but I remember seeing that.
The radioactive Boy Scout.
Yeah, because they
didn't
also
know
did
that
the
smoke
video on the guy who
detectors
split the atom through his head, or the guy who put his head into the.
I saw that video. I started it. I couldn't like.
Oh my god! This guy
guy
must have radiation burns, because I just saw a photo. David Charles Hahn, radioactive Boy Scout or nuclear Boy Scout, was an American Boy Scout who built a homemade neutron source at the age of 17.
Oh, it's just some weird, some channel called
2016.
Weird History.
But his face looks like nothing but radiation burns.
It wouldn't.
Well, it's kind of like the Indiglow girls.
Oh god,
no, the radium girls.
The radium girls.
Yeah, radium.
Dude, I watched this show just from this channel that I'd never seen before, but it was the most radioactive man in history. That was
that the guy that was in both nuclear explosions?
He was in, it was some kind of thing.
The fuck?
They just kept him alive for so long.
Oh, that dude where they were
melting.
Oh yeah, I remember that. Holy shit.
They kept trying to like skin graft to him and shit, and it's like, bro, there's no way.
What's the short of it? He was
Well,
in 2 bombs. Was he like
No, these are two different guys.
Hiroshima and Nagasaki? Like, what
Well,
kind
there
of luck
was
would
one
that
guy who
be?
was in both. There was one guy who was in both. So if I
Yeah.
recall correctly, the most radioactive guy, the one that Flo is talking about, he was like all of his skin was off his body, and like he's nothing but just like the muscle tissue around it, and they're keeping him alive just barely, and like they have this all
Wow.
recorded. This was like in the, I want to say maybe the 80s. The footage looked 80s or early 90s, like almost ripped off a
Whoa.
VHS tape,
That's
and
rough.
yeah, and so they're like keeping him like clearly this man is just like kill me. I can't remember if they had like officially his last words or something like that because he's just in so much immense pain.
yeah,
But
he lost the ability to speak, I think.
yeah, oh
Pretty
yeah,
Well,
quickly.
without lips.
Like,
I mean, like, honest to God. I mean, let's think about it. No lips.
they broke
If
it
hurts
down.
to touch a pencil with raw muscle as a hand,
Oh, no,
you know what I
yeah, he
mean?
couldn't do anything. And the way they broke it down, how, you know, he, like, how his cells were damaged and stuff. Like, at first, the company was like, go get checked
I
out at the
posted the
hospital.
video for you.
There you go. Yeah, that's the
Thank
one I
you.
saw. At first the company was like, "Oh, you'll be able to come back to work tomorrow or whatever," and like they had no idea.
I'm guessing they're not using a lot of the actual pictures, but I remember going around. There was like an imgur of like the uncensored photos of it, and it's just horrifying. You're like,
Yikes!
how is
Yeah,
that a living
I'm
thing?
glad I just listened to that video. I was like, "Oh no."
Yeah.
That's
Well,
one
ever
of those
since
things
they
that
took Live Leak away from us, damn it.
they kept him alive just to see at some point,
Oh,
like, hey,
definitely.
can we fix this? Like, if this happened to someone
Oh
else, like
yeah,
if this happened
they
to
were
the
trying to
president,
save
could
him.
we fix this?
Absolutely.
I
He
mean, like,
became
what
an
Cowboy?
experiment.
Yeah, I mean, let's be honest. If you were in that ability, in the position of power to be like, hey, the guy that you're in charge of may have this happen to him. Figure it out. You'd be like, hey, it sucks for this guy, but he's gonna have
Happen to him, what happens? So the next 50 people we know if we should put down immediately or we can save them. You know?
Oh yeah,
I wouldn't
mean,
want my fucking grandmother to go through that if she didn't have to. You know what I mean?
well, that's what
I'd rather someone to be like, hey, I already know what happens.
So
She's had 2 doses. Fuck it. Call it off right now.
well,
so
like,
here's the guy that I was mentioning. So this guy he worked in he's from Nagasaki, but he worked in Hiroshima.
Yes.
And then
Damn.
he got bombed, injured, leaves, goes home.
That sucks.
And then they nuke Nagasaki.
Bro, that's gotta be crazy. Like, you can't be like, are you kidding me? Again? Like, the sun on my on
The
my
next
head?
day, I like this. I like
Statistically,
this part.
right? It's gonna happen, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my
And
god.
he still lived.
What about
he
that
still
third
lived in
day?
93.
What
Lived
about
in
that third
93.
day?
Oh,
The day 3, you're like just constantly flinching, hoping the
He had the
fucking
strongest sperm in all
star
of
doesn't come
mankind.
over.
I like this line on his Wikipedia. In 1957, he was recognized as Hiba Kusha, explosion affected person.
That is such a
What the
Japanese
fuck?
thing.
It took them what? What would that be? 12 years to recognize him as that.
Well,
I don't know.
Japan's got a lot of things with councils. Well, they'll have councils of councils to consider what to name the awards before they come up with the award itself.
Yeah. I mean, the impressive thing here is that he lived to 93,
That's wild.
and that's when he got the cancer.
Well, shit.
I mean, fuck it. That's probably from cigarettes at that point. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, stomach cancer.
Maybe he was a
there's-
dipper.
Yeah,
maybe,
definitely.
maybe
That's
white
super
bread.
popular in Japan. They don't have a cigarette culture. They got a chewing tobacco culture.
Bro, what is it with Asians and shit? Like, Indian people do, I think it's betel nuts or something like that. And
Never
then,
heard of that.
well, I guess the
Yeah,
South
fuck, that's
Americans
disgusting.
chew the coca leaves.
Well, yeah, that kind of makes sense to me. Is like, back
Yeah,
when
it turns your-
like prehistory and shit like that, or primitive society, they were just going around like seeing what they can eat and what they can get away with eating.
I love how, like, yeah, the first dude that ate a hallucinogenic mushroom, it's just be like,
Right.
bruh, you'll never guess what happened.
That just reminds me of the the early episodes of the Joe Rogan Experience back before it was when it was still listenable. When he would talk constantly about Terrence McKenna and the stoned ape theory.
Oh yeah, I've actually avoided a lot of those. I don't know. I get into a mood where I just want to watch a couple Joe Rogans, but I
I
always
mean,
pick somebody that I want to hear.
I used to
from,
watch
I
every
guess.
fucking episode. I probably started watching around like episode 110 or something like that.
Holy shit, that's a while ago.
Jesus, you're before me. I thought I was
And
fucking
then
long
I
term.
would just marathon the beginning, back down to the fucking snowflakes on the screen lagging the stream out.
Yeah.
And
The
and then I probably
Justin
just
TV days or whatever.
yeah. I stopped. God, when did I stop watching? I mean, I really will legitimately only pick and choose if I care, but I don't even know who the guests are anymore. I don't follow Joe Rogan on any social media. Um,
All
for a
he does
while.
is all he does on social media. Like I unsubbed from social media, but I still listen to him because it was always the same. Thank you so and so for the
Oh,
something you sent me for the studio.
right.
Thanks for the knives. Thanks for the
Or
grill.
I posted a video in which is just an auto thing from like YouTube generated. The thing is, if I miss an episode and I can't watch it live, well, fine. Maybe. Oh, but I'm like, I don't know who that is. I don't know what they do. I don't care about
Yeah.
you. I basically only started. I stopped watching for a while, or I'd pick and choose. And then it was the other thing was it used to be like a little treat when a new episode would come out. Now it's like 3 fucking a week. At this point,
Yeah,
you're
it's
more
a
professional
few.
podcaster than you are a comedian.
Well, his comedy is not great.
I like his comedy. I mean, so like I like Tom Segura's comedy. I like Tom Segura's comedy way better than his podcast. And
Doesn't
it's
he
the
have like
opposite,
3 now?
You know what's funny is there's a Tom Segura does something called Tom Talks, and as long as he doesn't talk about his cuck politics, I think he's a better interviewer than Joe Rogan. But well, because he only chooses guests that he's intimately, knowledgeable about.
that he legitimately idolizes these people. Like these are people that he really does hold on a higher pedestal.
He's got like
These like
lifelong questions he's crafted for these people.
yeah. I gotta jump off, boys. You guys have fun. Thank you so much. ChadBroChill420.
Yeah.
Thank
Take it
you.
easy, Joe. Rest your voice. He doesn't usually sound like that. He's not
I was
got a
wondering.
disability.
I wasn't gonna judge him or anything.
Yeah, nah. I'm audio
I'm 30
autistic.
years
If he
younger than what
always
I sound
sounded
right
like
now.
that, I'd have fired his ass a long time ago.
What nursing home did you crawl him out of?
Yeah. Well,
Thanks.
there is a guy named Viridian that kind of sounds like that, and that's just how his voice is. But
It is what it is.
so did the news anchors or any other part of the operation like to do any drugs or show up fucked up or anything like that?
Never fucked up, but I definitely know that like there was a reason why a lot of people took trips out to Colorado.
Oh, for sure. If it's close by. As long as they're not going to Oregon.
They take their week vacation, and like they never drug tested us or anything.
That's so funny. Yeah, it's not.
Which is always one of the paranoid things. I was like, oh, you're going to work at Fox. They're probably like super whatever conservative. They're gonna be
Yeah.
like, well, let's get all the druggies out of here. But it's like, when you get down to the local level, like even though you have your little parent company that mandates you run national packages and stuff like that, it's the same. It really is the same as any other place. It's not just because you're branded as the conservative news network or like the fake news net, whatever the fuck you want to call it. They're not they all like there might have been it's like a 90-10 split like Democrat Republican voter.
Yeah, and that I mean, so you know were incompatible, or the work environment was incompatible with you, and was that because of some of the political things, or was that just like people's personalities?
A lot of it came down to personality and not being able to see like the forest from the trees. Some of it came down to politics because I mean, generally speaking, you just don't really talk about it openly. I mean, you can discuss politics, and there's plenty of political discussion. The thing with me is like I'm not super conservative anyway. I'm very fiscally conservative. I think that's where a lot of things start. But I'm more I don't want to say I'm necessarily like libertarian because I don't even know what that means anymore.
Right.
Especially if you look at that, and I don't even think I would mesh with like libertarian stuff in general. I think there's a place for government, but I'm very hands off on a lot of stuff. I don't. My general feeling is typically just like, don't infect my life with your crap and let me live. That's
Yeah,
generally how I
I
feel.
mean, I just say I'm pro small government. Because
Yeah, but
there's so much libertarian, like, oh, the roads and like age of consent and all this like
age of consent, the
retarded
borders.
stuff. Yeah, I don't like to get. I don't even really label my political views because they're so varied and unique. But
What was God? I'm trying to think of who was the first person to ever say or like got termed with the got like mocked with the term radical centrist. I
oh
almost like
man,
saying
I'm
that
trying to
ironically.
think. Yeah, well
I don't
now
want to
it
say it was Sargon, but it might have been
now
Sargon.
it applies more than
Yeah.
ever. Unfortunately, despite the memery.
I don't necessarily know what that will entail, but I like the idea of being radical as a child of the '90s, and and then just being centrist, so you can kind of be an asshole and you can play both sides apart.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's all just a snake eating itself, anyways.
Yep, the Ouroboros.
Exactly. Did you have anything else? Like I noticed when you called into some of the other shows, you were a little rushed. Did you have anything else you wanted people to
Oh,
know?
I rush myself intentionally because I don't know how long. Like, I mean, I've called into like radio shows and they're like, "Oh, we're up against a break" and stuff like that. So you're trying to get your shit in,
No,
type
it's
stuff.
good. Yeah, for sure.
I mean, usually, like I mean, I consume like shit constantly. I mean, I have a lot of time now that I'm still unemployed, but that's not going to be
Isn't that fun? Just telling people I'm unemployed.
right.
I
Well,
like
it
in
sucks.
between jobs, I'm just
Right.
unemployed.
I say I'm gainfully unemployed, but
Exactly.
um, but it's I usually just I'll start like analyzing stuff. Like what was it? Like the other day, like I just started like I don't know, you can call it like the height of conspiracy or whatever, but I was just like combined with the if you watch the yellow vest protests that have been going on in France, probably still to this day, they don't cover them anymore in the news. I'd probably have to learn French or translate a bunch of French newspapers and find out what the fuck French newspapers are. Um, but it was basically a protest from all the poor people who live well, not maybe they're not all poor, but they're like gas prices are out of control. I understand you're trying to move
See
to
you
like
later,
green
Apple.
vehicles, but we can't just be going out buying electric cars. We don't have that kind of money. Even if you in the same things in America, like I have a gasoline vehicle, you have an electric vehicle. I can't just go out, even if I get the little government bonus, which is like $5,000. But the car costs $35,000. The car that I'm driving, even if I trade it in, is not going to be even worth a dent into that cost. I can't start eating a new like cost for a vehicle. So
Yeah, and all the like savings from electric vehicles, I imagine, would be in the long term, not in the
right, but
beginning.
I need the short term money to be able to finance that. And I don't have that currently. So so all the people, and then they implement these other things. So I believe, if I recall correctly, they they wore yellow vests in France because there was a law that mandated they need to have two yellow vests, which you have to pay for out of your own pocket in case of emergency when you're on the side of the road. So
Oh,
that
the high
high
vis
visibility.
jackets, yes.
Yeah,
That's a meme all the time in like a bunch of European shit that I follow on Instagram, like occupational stuff or whatever.
right.
And they're
So
always like, never would have happened if he was wearing his high vis vest.
right. So the other thing is you have to remember, since they're using the metric system, they pay by the liter, and they're paying like two plus. I mean, I don't know what that guy's, but if you think about it, like you know, whether love or hate Trump or indifferent or all this other stuff, gas was probably hovering outside of the coastal places where the gas is always going to be higher just due to cost of living. Let's just say the mean gas price was around 185, 190. Well, now we're pushing $3. I saw as high as 317. I just saw gas around me drop 5 cents, but it's still over $2.80. But what I was
Yeah,
saying
it's
is just
pretty
back to
pricey.
my greater point is we have this large hack of a gas company. Then we had two. We had there was a oil tanker or some sort of rig explosion in the Caspian Sea. Then there was that pipe explosion in the Gulf of Mexico. Um, Joe Biden shut down the Keystone XL pipeline. It's just everything is trending away from going to fossil fuels. It's it's fine and dandy if you have a solution
Damn,
on how
you're
to
right.
get everybody on board with this in a reasonable way, in terms of like not necessarily even easing people into electric vehicles. I don't think people care if their car runs on gas or electric. They just want to have the vehicle so they can move around, get to work. But what they want to do is they want to drive everybody back into cities. They don't want you living out in the country. That's how they're going to get you in your pod because, oh, you can't afford a car. Well, you got to be towards a business.
Very
You
nice.
got to walk there. You got a bicycle there.
Ride a bike. Yeah.
Right. So and well, you can't really get away with oh, I've got to wear a suit to work because I'm in sales or something. Well, I can't ride the bus. I can't be I can't be walking out from the suburbs to my job in the city. There's just no way I can get there on foot and in time. What am I going to do? Leave at like 2 hours early? And then I'll be all sweaty and shit? What happens if I'm in a chilly climate? Well, sucks to be you.
Yeah, you should just get comfortable in your shipping container and eat your cicada cakes. I've got a caller. Would you like to take a caller?
Sure.
Okay. He'll probably just hop in a moment. But yeah, I don't think
I don't care if it's not live or if it's live.
Yeah,
I just didn't know.
It has been. Oh,
okay,
you've been so well behaved and everything. I don't mind.
I've only sworn a little bit.
Yeah, somebody dropped an expletive earlier, but these things happen.
Who dare?
Who dare?
Lord.
Says the gamer words. This is Fed. He also enjoys the kill stream.
Yeah, I'm missing it now. Damn it.
Well, sorry.
It's been a while over it too.
It's okay.
I will compensate you with the cheers. There it is.
Yeah. I've only gone through one drink, so it's a slow night for me right now. I didn't want to get up from my seat.
This is why I keep the bottle. Like it's like
my problem is ice.
Yeah, well, I keep it in the freezer, and then like I just hope it's gonna last long enough that I don't.
Are you in a cold enough? Are you in a cold enough climate where the condensation doesn't ruin whatever the fuck you put it on?
Fed strikes me as a coaster kind of guy.
I'm a coaster guy, but my shit with all the ice and all the condensation literally bleeds off the coaster. Oh, I would have to use I'd have to use like a cooking trivet where you put hot dishes on.
Oh yeah.
So I actually have.
If it's that cold too.
I removed a drawer from my desk because it's really awkward with like if I want to sit up to where the boom lets the mic sit, and I just put like Teflon over it like entirely, and I just whatever like I'm like it's my temporary sink where it's like okay
Dude, that's a drawer. There ain't no sink.
Well, if I need to pick it up and take it over the sink, I can do that. Like, if I get really drunk and I just want to put my alcohol and whatever I drank over there the night before and pass out in the chair,
I think I've ruined two good laptops keyboards by pouring.
See, that's why you keep it below the electronics, and it makes even more sense when it's down there.
It makes me want to buy one of those untippable like cups or whatever that can like take a little good hit.
So,
a giant one.
Which version are you talking about? Do they have,
I don't know. I haven't seen them in a while, but I saw them. They were like kind of a stupid craze like 5 years ago on YouTube. I think they were sponsoring people. But it's I think it might be it's not like a suction cup or something like that, but they can take like a little bit of a whack and it doesn't spill over.
I just love the different iterations of it because there's like ones where it's like sci-fi movie and it's like, oh, what's gonna do? Oh, well, you're in 0G, so we have a magnet on the bottom of our cup. Well, it better be a sippy cup. So they get weird with that. But then there's also ones that have like they have like they have wooden slats on the side of them for like when you actually have gravity, like on Earth essentially. But they have wooden slats with like a weight at the panel. And so if it starts to tip, the panel will fall out because the wooden weight or the weight at the bottom of the wood slat will pull out, and it'll act like a bike stand, and it'll hold the cup up.
That's kind of cool. I haven't heard of that.
Oh, dude, there's so many weird iterations of fucking 0G.
They probably
cups.
have
It's
like
so stupid.
drone-based ones and
Yeah, no,
nonsense.
it's
Yeah, I'm looking at something like that thing.
The mug that won't fall over.
Yeah.
the OFUG mug. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, whatever.
It's fun.
But I'm never gonna buy it because I'm like, I got perfectly good glasses.
Oh, I just have a bottle and Teflon. Like, I can't. I put the cap on the bottle.
Unique problems call for unique solutions.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's so funny. It's got like, in the little manual, it has a guy tapping it with the back of his hand, and that's okay. But then it has him hitting it with the closed fist, and there's like an X, and it says "Don't put it on angles."
A lot of these things seem to have fists punching them on the side.
It's also pretty racially charged, this image.
Do not
if
fist
I do
cup.
say so myself.
So, Fed, did you have a question for me?
Have y'all seen the Capitol riot? What is it? What is it? The insurrection, the January 6th. Have y'all seen the documentary that
The
they've
revolution.
done about that?
How long ago was that released? I think I saw something where it was like, I was watching a left wing podcast, and they were like breaking it down like scene by scene, and I actually had to stop watching it because the podcast, not the video, because obviously they're pausing it and talking it for their little fair use gimmick. But I was just like, I'm so annoyed at all the cock sucking.
Is it? I'm fairly certain that it's Destiny that you're talking about, right?
No.
Oh,
I would have said
really?
Destiny. I can't stand to
Okay.
watch Destiny.
Yeah, well, I think he tends to be quite the fellatio master, but yeah, it's I wasn't aware of it, and then it kept coming up in like recommended stuff. Yes, definitely. But I was like, it was one of those things where it was like, oh, this is weird. There's like this Irish narrator, and they're
Yeah, that sounds
going
like it.
over. Well, and it's like
I was like, you're not from America. You don't get a say.
Well, it was very interesting to see. So like when I look at that, I when you look at that sort of thing, and with your background, do you kind of like see the the winners write the history sort of thing, and you're like, oh, how do you think that one's gonna go down in the history books? Do you think it's actually gonna go down as like insurrection? Do you think that's actually gonna be able to sit like that, or do you think that it's gonna be contested and whatever?
100%. It's already there. It's already there. It's too late. It's
They're
too
gonna
late
be
because,
teaching kids about it in school. A bunch of terrorists.
well, I mean, okay,
busted
well, here's the
down a
problem.
door.
When was when you were in grade school or middle school, like when you went to history class every single year, how far did you make it into modern history? We never even scraped the Korean War.
Oh, absolutely.
That's true.
Well, the one thing that they would always do, and I don't know if it's because I didn't catch if you're a younger or older man, but I'm reaching close to my 30 mark, and we did this thing that was Nostradamus, and it's American backwards, and they would just recontextualize, like they use horse bristle brushes to like scrub their teeth, and they're these backwards people where they enslaved the indigenous population, and they even brought in other populations to fuck with them, and it was like,
I
oh,
think
so
that's, from my understanding, that's actually a sociological study. I believe that when I was in college, I can't remember what the exact class was, but it was it was also one of the diversity credit requirements, which is bullshit. I got most of my diversity credits came from my history classes,
Mhm.
because I took history of Mexico, history of South America, history of Africa, and I got a lot of like stuff about that. But that was
they actually have
but
fascinating histories.
I recall I recall this thing where it was a sociology. It was supposed to be, from what I understanding, was it was supposed to be a criticism of observational, embedding yourself in a community to watch, like kind of like, in Star Trek where they have the prime directive or whatever, like don't fuck with
Yeah.
a uncontacted civilization. It's that was one of the criticisms that this sociologist, I believe, or maybe it was an anthropologist, one of the two. But they basically wrote this thing that was like talking about the 1950s, and they'd be like, they open up things in the wall to take out stuff and they do exactly what you like, like brush their teeth with bristles and stuff like that, like using kind of these vagalities that you can kind of mix and construe. And that's another thing that happens again in the media. It's like you're choosing your words correctly, like um there are these
to
things in
avoid
news.
liability and stuff.
There's part of that, but it's also to invoke emotion.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, it's I think I think you very correctly, when you're looking at it, you're looking at the thing that I really highlight in this sort of like dichotomy that they're highlighting there is the objectivity versus the subjectivity, and then they're trying to say this tends to be the case with almost everything as we've progressed into the future, is you cannot have objective reporting of things because we can bring up the naysaying is so simple. The doubting Thomas position is so fucking easy to just say, oh, well, even though you are bringing up completely factually correct things, because you are bringing up these specific things, you are bringing up a narrative based on that. And I agree that there is a narrative based on that. But I think at some point you have to cede that there's a viable objective plot that's happening here, and you can actually like you can course it out, like, but they really, I mean, the whole point of this is to play up the whole subjective, like, oh well, can I turn you against what is like completely natural for you? And I don't know if like I said, this was something that they did in middle school or high school. I just remember them doing it and being like, "What the fuck?" Like, I remember looking at it and being like, "That's America." Like, I have like it's not dyslexia, but I jumble up words, and I saw it as American.
You're a
Like,
pro Scrabble player, is what you're saying.
I love word searches. I love all that shit. Cryptograms. I fucking rule at them. Get at me. But yeah,
Send
I
them
looked
all
at
your
it and it's like,
cryptograms.
So this
actually,
just
yeah.
reminds me, especially with like the news. I think the two biggest problems is our news media and our education system in terms of like what they're trying to tell you. And so back in this is February 22nd, 2017, on the Morning Joe on MSNBC, Mika Brzezinski. He could undermine the messaging so much that he could actually control what people think, and that is our job. And so she had to do a
Well,
little
absolutely.
apology dance, but she told the truth for once.
Well, actually, so I have another question for you because
Sure.
I lost my shit the other night.
Get it
Do you
back.
ever watch? Do you ever watch? Well, I mean, it's not something like, yeah, no, I
Needs to
definitely
rent some
regained composure.
equipment.
Yeah, and well, I went
Backhoe.
to the local yeah, I went to Lowe's, and it's on rental till I find it. But yeah, it's if you've ever like talked to Max or some of these people, like they're Killstream adjacent sorts of people, I really despise Jon Stewart. I really take issue with Jon Stewart. I really take issue with a lot of our comedians
What
that
does
we have in that
Max think
similar
about
space.
Jon Stewart?
John,
He's evil because he's Jewish, right?
No, not. I mean, whatever you want to draw out of that, you can draw. I don't care about that part. The part that I care about is I care about the it's just a joke, bro. That's the thing that I really fucking that pisses me off so much. It's because if we look at the news and we look at the way that, like, okay, well, have everybody been following the mainstream news recently? Not so much. You've been going to alternate platforms. What alternate platforms? If you really track what people are doing, some of them are going to YouTube. They're looking at like these sorts of people. Some people are just going to Facebook and they're just looking at memes. They don't really have like authoritative sources or anything behind them, and it's very hard to discern, even if they sound very authoritative, if they are or not. And it's very hard to discern what the facts are.
Well, that's the crux behind the whole Russia conspiracy. There's no
Exactly.
doubt. There's no doubt that Russia is obviously trying to influence stuff, but there's also no doubt that America does it everywhere. I mean, how many coups in South America? I mean, the president of Haiti was just fucking assassinated.
Assassinated.
Like, and they arrested 2 Americans.
Well, when you have what was it? What was the one that fucking yeeted Twitter or Facebook? They were like, it was a.
Nigeria.
Yeah.
Was it Nigeria?
Yeah, it was Nigeria.
Yeah,
because
well,
they took down a presidential Twitter.
Well, it's absurd. It's absurd to think that this isn't like some form of like political manipulation, and it. That's the thing where I get so very like I work with some people from the UK. They come over here. They work for like.
But we're letting them in now.
Well, I mean, it depends on like what you're working on, but yeah.
I was just talking to my friend. He said he's got a business trip to France in a week, and I was like, "What the fuck are you talking about?"
Well,
they're letting you in.
No way. Well, I've been to. When the coup first happened, I was like on an oil rig, like working in Norway, like. It was like I want to be like taken out of here in case this thing goes sideways. My boss was like, "Sure," and it was like, "Okay, now wait a minute." Like we actually got like a yellow dot on our passport, and it was like, excuse me, what do we?
Dang, that's
do
baller,
I get a little number
bro.
on my wrist? Like, what's gonna happen? And like, the guy that I was working with actually was like incredibly sick. Like he was like dying in the bathroom.
I'm good.
I double dipped the passport. I fucking got him in. I said, "No, fuck your shit. Like, I don't care." And like, I pulled him in the plane.
Dude,
I
you're a
just
fucking
didn't-
super spreader, dog.
I would have
Yeah,
almost thought
exactly.
that being on that oil rig would have been safer.
Oh yeah, well, absolutely. Well, as
I mean,
long as
granted, I
nobody's
know it's like
going
a high hazard job. If I understand it correctly,
not what we were doing.
Okay, I was gonna say I used to train with a guy who he worked on oil rigs in Norway, and he would disappear for like 3 months, and then I have to work for like 8.
The most dangerous thing that I did on there was like I worked like 28 days straight, and then I got absolutely pissed drunk. Like the
Did you
29.
fall off?
No, well, no. I went out to the bars and like I'd met some fucking women.
Oh,
over
so
there.
are you like chauffeuring in and out daily, not like living on it?
Well, no, well, yeah. Like we had like a hotel that was super close, and we basically just like it was like maybe like 0.75 a mile to get there. It was nothing to get to the rig, and because it wasn't offshore at that point. We were doing like it was still onshore, but it's still you had to like go up the fucking elevator, and it was like it was a thing where it's like, oh, what is the rain cycle gonna give me today? Is it just happen when I have to fucking walk up this fucking giant like 35-story cage like stair set because the elevators never work anymore? But yeah,
doesn't sound like a good thing.
Well, yeah, no, it sucked. And then
So if this thing's onshore, but it's meant to be offshore, is that what I'm getting? It like gets moved out there.
Yeah, eventually.
So I have to assume this thing is pretty newish then.
No, they do refurbishing of certain portions of it, but also
I was gonna say if it's pretty new and it's onshore, I didn't really think they brought oil rigs back onshore. They just kind of stayed out there.
Well, they refurbish certain portions of it, and then they also like they have big projects and like the Norwegians and whatnot, because they have like so many good like natural resources. They can actually like very much scrutinize like a whole bunch of these like these processes that they use, and so they tend to be ahead of the curve on these sorts of things. The North Sea is like they're pretty good about what they do, and I'm very minorly dabbling in this because it's like a subsect of what I do, but like yeah, they're pretty up to date on their shit considering like the difference. I'm from Texas. I talk to people in the Gulf, and we have fucking catastrophic failures, and you're like, wow, this shouldn't happen, but it's like, oh well, these are completely different standards. But
yeah. So how real was that film starring Mark Wahlberg?
Brephophagus, whatever that is.
Good catch. Good catch.
I don't know
Flo.
what any of those
Don't
words
forget
are.
this is your own show. Don't kill it.
Well, phagist, I guess would be what it is.
Yes.
Yeah.
Phagist.
You got to get your crossword skills up. Reach out to Fed. He'll scramble your jets.
So what platform are you using to stream? Trovo or
Trovo,
Odyssey?
YouTube, DLive, Odyssey, Vaughn.live, which is mostly a joke, and and entropy, which is based off the the D-Lab.
Yeah.
The big thing that need to like, well, you don't need to understand about flow, but the thing about flow is incredibly underground, but he gets the asses in the seats, and then when he actually does the interview with the people, he gets a good interview. Like at some point, somebody's gonna be like, God forbid,
This is
it
just
might
so
be
much
the Kiwi
fun.
Farms. It might be somebody. They
2
might
weeks
come
in the
across
making.
this, and they might just be like, "Oh my God, there's actually like, there's some stuff in here where you can actually like look at it." But yeah, no. I have a morbid fascination.
I gotta get
flow.
the fucking a podcast going where I just like only do I gotta get the audio good, because I wanna, when I do that, I'm gonna take any copyright material out. That
Sure.
way it's just clean.
Oh well, and that's the thing, yeah, and that's where it's like.
But like the Odyssey, they
can
just
we
get uploaded whole.
can we call you back over to do another interview to point when to fix the shit?
Yeah, well,
But
like
it's-
ChadBro is just one of many guests that I've just heard a little bit from, and I was like, oh, I want to hear more from that person, and I reached out, and I was like, got some questions, sounds interesting. What
Sure.
happened?
I'm pretty down to talk about almost anything. At least, I mean, sometimes I can talk with my ass, but I think it's just fun. But then that always there's this one guy at my fucking gym. I'll say something that I'm like I've speculated and I feel it's kind of an educated guess, and he's like, no, that's not. This is really this. I'm like, okay. It's like, oh, I'm almost targeted. He's kind of a dick though, so it doesn't really. The trick is to not sell any reaction. Just be like, okay. Didn't know. Thanks.
True. Yeah. Well, the reactionary thing is tending to be like, it's very much deep. Well, I'm very annoyed with the way that like we have this like left-right dichotomy where it's like we can't do anything in between. We've released politics and we're just selling reality to both sides, and we're like, oh, this is what's actually happening. This is what's actually happening.
Yeah,
so
you put yourself in an echo chamber.
Well, so I did the cognitive dissonance dance where I got 2 fucking coworkers to just fight with each other in the office. Like I was just doing a whole bunch of processing today, and so like I actually like so there's. Have you ever heard of Jonathan Haidt? Either of y'all? I know.
I have.
No.
So he does a thing, and it's called moral foundation theory. I'm not gonna go too far.
I have
into
heard
it.
of that.
So basically, it looks at like you have
Maybe
like
from
you have most likely, because I really like where this is going, and it's very persuasive, and when you use it properly. But it looks at like reverence and like disgust. So you have like what is it? There's like 6 different like ways that they look at the way that you have your moral foundations, but it looks at like it looks at the positive association and the negative association. I'll bring them up real quick just because it's too nebulous if I just talk.
Well,
about
that's
it.
similar to what I mentioned earlier, where how credit and blame is the same thing, but with positive and negative connotation.
Exactly. And what? So you see, it's I know without looking at it, care and harm are associated, and it's you still have the same the reaction to it, but it's still from the same moral foundation. It's care, harm, fairness, cheating. So each one of these is an antonym of the other. So first is the
I was
one
gonna say, I thought you were trying to say like they're similar in the. Yeah, I got
No,
you.
no,
Go ahead.
they're antonyms, but it evokes the same response.
What, in, like the brain?
Yes. So when you're looking at it, if you have care and harm, it's the same thing that's evoked, and you can actually look at this between conservatives and like liberals.
So do you think this is because the brain fires synapses to like understand with word association that like this is the opposite of this one word, and so I know that.
No.
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 Okay.
Well, no, it's because it's the way that they did it is, or the way that they did this study is they abstracted. They did like they went to different countries. They abstracted like they went into like these different questions, and you can actually go to Jonathan Haidt as like a .org website where you can take a test and you can look at some of the things that they're talking about. and it's like if you hit your neighbor's dog and nobody saw it, how disgusted are you if you eat that dog? And it's like, it's weird questions, and it evokes that weird sort of thing, and it tends to be the case that conservatives. So I'll do two things real quick. So I'll pull this up, copy. I'll just put it in the general, if that's okay.
For sure.
Yeah. So general. Here are these are the, like, so you tend to look at this white line and say, like, these are the things that we care about, but you really care about the violation version of these. You care about care harm, fairness cheating, liberty oppression, loyalty betrayal, authority subversion, sanctity degradation. But the thing that you tend to see, and I just want to make sure, I'm taking a stab at it before I look at the fucking graph, because the graph is very telling. The conservatives tend to get this, they have like pretty much a flat line of all these things where they take them into account and they care about them to about the same level. There's certain ones that they regard over others, but liberals care about 3 of them. And I believe it's care harm, fairness cheating, and liberty oppression. And they don't give a fuck about loyalty betrayal, authority, or sanctity. They, in some ways, you can like connect sanctity to like nature, things like that, but conservatives tend to put that towards religion, and so it's a stronger bond towards conservative views, and they tend to score higher on this chart because of that. But liberals tend to not give a fuck about loyalty. You'll Me Too somebody over anything, you don't fucking care. Authority, nobody gives a fuck about the authority. If we score higher on fairness and we're trying to elevate people that have been wrong, we will absolutely throw loyalty, authority, and sanctity under the bus for just fairness. And it's fascinating, because that's where you see the political divide is like very illuminating along those lines.
That is pretty interesting to me. I do kind of find it funny because just a lot of more public personalities I see, maybe they don't actually value it, but it's more of a virtue signal. I see a lot of I would say left-leaning, whether they're internet commentary, or maybe it's just because they're young and naive or whatever, but I definitely know that their team fuck Trump, fuck the Republicans, whatever, all this other stuff. They're like, oh yeah, go Team Blue, and they always talk about loyalty, or ride or die type stuff, which is interesting to me in terms of that it's not nearly as valued, or even somewhat on par. But I can definitely see how care harm fairness, because they won't shut the fuck up about equity and equality and not being the same thing, and all the exceptions that need to be done. So, liberty and oppression is a weird fine line, because they always seem to be willing to sacrifice freedom for safety.
Well, and that's the thing where I actually this is why it was really interesting. So my tease to get this like fucking fight going, I didn't want them to fight each other. I just wanted one side to understand that I was talking to a conservative person, there was somebody who was liberal on the other side. I knew I could make the liberal argument, and I knew I could make it long enough that I was gonna coax the liberal person into jumping in.
Oh, you savage.
I know that the fucking conservative guy's doing it just like take the piss, and like he's trying to get a rise, but he's gonna get super mad at some point. And so I was like,
well, yeah, you got so many salient points.
Well, so I know both the arguments, and I know that both sides are gonna fuck with each other, and so
they would never.
Well, so if you look at the chart again, you is not me personally. This is just something that I grabbed from online. But
I was
if
hoping
you look
I had intimate details of all your life now.
Well, no, not. Unfortunately, no. I am chaotic neutral, and I kind of sit right in that fucking realm, and I love it.
I like how
Are you serious?
Somebody
You're
brought
chaotic
this up.
neutral?
What's wrong with that?
She was talking,
well, no, I tend
this
to
is
be.
Apple, Chad, bro.
I
She
can see
she
that.
doesn't
I'm
ask
looking at
for
this one.
permission when she comes on the guest shows like Fed did. Very nice of him
Better,
to do.
you know, it's better to it's better to ask for forgiveness than permission.
Yeah, she doesn't care.
True. I do
She
subscribe.
bursted
I
in
was
here real fast too.
I was
Don't worry, I'm
raised
not
in a
offended.
Catholic school, so I understand. But
I wouldn't
so
have cared either way, not gonna lie.
before you ask that or your question, Apple. So if you do look at this sort of thing, if you look at this red bar for conservatism, you'll see that it falls on the 60 line real fucking well.
I think
but then if you watch
that's what I
the
remember
blue
about
line,
that
just
chart.
watch this fucking thing go across, and it just dips. They don't give a fuck, and you can if you think about it, you can map some of these things to certain like things where it's like veganism, sorts of things like that. It doesn't map as well as just religion in general.
So on that chart, is purity supposed to be the degradation one? Sanctity degradation?
Yes. So if you look at that's why
Because they
I
all
linked both of them.
kind of mirrored the one except for that one, so I was just clarifying.
Well, exactly. So I mean, Jonathan Haidt does a moral foundation theory book. Basically, the synopsis of the book, in my opinion, basically he's a liberal guy, and he was trying to help. I think he helped Bill Clinton do some of his speeches, and then he tried to help Obama, and he was like, "Obama, your optics are fucking awful." And then he tried to figure out through his psych evaluations where he was like, yeah, no, I was pretty sure that this is the way that people thought about this, but then I went back on it, and then he tried to look at it again. He tried to look at it and tried to crack conservatives over this to figure out how he could appeal to them, and it turned out that his findings were conservatives cared about all the things he didn't think they cared about whatsoever, and it turned out the opposite, that liberals didn't give a fuck about these metrics. And he kept he went to India, and he went to a couple of different locations where he was like, okay, I'm just looking for fundamentalist religious people. What do you care about? And it turned out they gave a fuck about the totality instead of these single parts. But the problem is, and again, just to tie it back to what I was talking about earlier, the conservative person I was talking about thinks because he scores higher on a purity or an authority moral, that they don't care about morals. They think that the libertarians don't give a fuck, or the libertarians, whatever, they don't give a fuck. I know there's different groups, but both of them scored similarly on this.
They're virtually identical.
Well, they have some difference, but it's very interesting how it was okay, well, so yeah, if you want to do this on a moral basis, and I set up the moral cause for the liberal to just jump in, and he fucking clobbered this other guy that I work with, and he was like, yeah, no, absolutely no, I care on this on moral basis. And he's like, what do you mean moral basis? And he's like, well, yeah, and they went into some finer points. I'm not gonna go into it, but it was very interesting, and I basically set it up as, oh yeah, well, you think this is a moral conversation? And he said, absolutely, conservative standpoint, moral conversation, and then just game over when liberal jumped and said, no, I really care about these things. And I told him, here's why he cares about them. And it was just I was heckling, and I was just like, yeah, he cares about them because of that. And it was just fuel, and I just got to throw it on there. It was great.
All right, you two check your Twitter. I just tagged you in something. But Apple, what do you want to say? Were you just going to talk about alignments, or?
No, I just always figured that he was awful good. I was like, you too much of a
awful good. I'm awfully great, you fuck. What are you talking about?
Lawful good.
Lawful, not awful.
Oh, I heard awful, and I was like,
He's
It's in the latest edition of D&D.
Fuck you. No, please don't.
Yeah, awful.
You gotta upgrade.
Hey man, I play. Well, it's Monday, but.
So did you guys see what Ian Miles Chong posted on here? I'm having trouble if he's being. I'm having trouble trying to know if he's being satirical or not, but
this is what Marvel does to your brain.
Well, I know this is fucked because Vito liked it, and that's how it got shown up on my feed. This guy is such a troll. Like not an internet troll,
Physically.
like a bridge troll. Yeah.
Imagine equating these two things. Picking up a fucking water bottle, I mean, there's a road sign stop, but for like, yeah, don't fuck with Texas. Sure, I know I see that all the time, but I mean,
Excuse me, I
Normandy.
thought it was mess. Don't-
No. Just go a little state over. Don't fucking put on us. It's not us. Swear. But yeah, no, it's just
So I just saw.
false economies. Bullshit.
I just saw the video you were talking about from Ian Mouse Chong, and he's just like, this is why more Asians are buying guns, and to that I have to say that like nobody has ever talked shit about rooftop Koreans. They're one of the biggest fan favorite things probably on the internet
in American history.
Yeah. Yeah, what was it? Probably right around the end of or right around the beginning. No, I guess whenever the fuck George Floyd was killed. If you look at if you looked at the Google Trends of searches for rooftop Koreans, there was like a sharp spike right around that time.
I don't know why, but I thought of like a TikTok channel where it's groove top Koreans and they're just doing like little dance things, but they also
that's called K-pop.
Groove top Koreans.
Yeah, well, it's just like
cash in on the BTS bullshit.
That's K-pop idol groups, dude.
BTS sucks.
But then you have like.
Uh-oh, they're coming for you now.
Yeah, you better be careful. You never know.
You're canceled. You're canceled because you're racist.
But this, so like I don't know. Like every time I do like I like, and again, like I don't do very serious critiques of things. Well, I mean I take it serious, but like I don't like publish them ridiculously. Like I just talk on whatever platform I have. But I find the same thing with these movies where people are too fucking stupid to understand what the difference is between these two things. Because I want to say it's trolling, but really
you ask MSNBC,
is he
wasn't there?
fishing for this?
Well, maybe, and especially since Vito liked it, that's what makes me think that. But also, a lot of if you ask MSNBC, they had a headline that was like January 6th worse than 9/11 or something like that.
And
well,
I thought their headline was closer to like this is like the biggest violation in
or
America
maybe the
since like the War of 1812. But I mean, there's definitely people going around. I mean, you've got like good old little Hassan Piker saying that America deserved 9/11. Got those guys out there.
Well, and so the problem that I have is like I don't know. I
your
look
only
at
problem?
This, well, I mean, I have more than one problem for sure. Absolutely.
Well, USA Today says insurrection. Oh no, never mind. That's asking the question.
It's
okay. Did the insurrection cause a 20-year war on foreign soil in multiple countries? Did the insurrection kill at least 3,200 people?
Oh, what a surprise! It was a fucking Republican strategist that said the January 6th attack was worse for the nation than the terrorist attacks of September 11th. And then, the media just...
How many U.S. soldiers died overseas in the 20-year-long shit show?
Yeah, for sure.
So that they could protect poppy fields.
Well, this is
and
my
oil.
fucking... This is exactly my fucking problem with it. Like, both of these things highlight it. One, it's, again, like, I get that it's fucking super lame to, like, draw it back to where I look at these things. But this is where, like, it was something where, like, I just had to stop, like, doing something that I like. I had to stop watching movies and all these things because it's horseshit listening to these theories and these fucking reviews and everybody that was like, oh, well, yeah, no, it's really about this. The subjective bullshit, get it the fuck out of here. There is an objective realm where you can look at these things and we can actually really look at these things and you can say, yeah, without a doubt. No.
What was the last Cape film you watched?
You guys are doing airstrikes right now, so.
Well, I do a thing with somebody Dark Butters, Ghost. If you've ever heard him on the Kill stream.
I have. Is
Yeah,
this Ghost from that old angry guy that owns a bar and yells into the cloud?
Well, no, it's
Not that Ghost.
Might as well be.
yeah, no,
Might
it's
as
the
well
guy
be.
that fucking yelled at
Richard Spencer.
Richard Spencer, yeah, and
Oh,
like,
the only one?
well, he's like the autistic. Well,
Yeah,
well,
kinda.
so
No, the
there's a
only
few-
one?
No, he
Well,
cowers.
no, there was a few people that
He
did
cowers
it.
in the face of Butters' OG autism. Cannot be quenched.
Whoa.
Cannot be stopped.
Yeah, well, he like.
Okay, so what's the
autistically
show you do?
focused it. Well, yeah, I mean, I just do like a Friday thing, and he likes some of these shows, and I think they're just awful, and like I have to go on there and be like, okay, well, I really, even if I like I mean, Invincible, so it's not a Marvel property, where it was like, oh, it was pretty good, but they absolutely ruined their last episode because they did a montage halfway through it about what the next season would be, and it ruins the pacing. Like, just talking about that.
You do have very
autistically,
nuanced opinions on these things.
Well,
the
yeah,
same
because
time.
well, I look at them and I think there's a very you can look at them in a very objective lens and say the pacing is terrible. You can look at these things and say, based on these other things, that we can you derive like what is objective from okay, I'm not gonna go into it.
This
but
show's
you
called
can derive
Coast
what's
to
objective and what
Ghost
isn't.
also.
Yeah, and we fucking kill each other on this shit all the time. And he likes to watch the Marvel stuff. I don't care about it. I thought there was like Infinity War and Endgame. I thought those are fascinating because one of them was great. The other one is like where like a company took over and fucked it over and made it awful. And I can critique the fuck out of the difference between the two of them. And then anytime somebody brings up any difference, like I have a great like landmarker now to say like, yeah, okay, this new Loki show, dog shit, awful. Don't even look at it. But the problem is you get like Tomorrow War, this thing that came out, and people are too stupid to like. Everybody just does this clickbait.
Yesterday's
like,
noon.
well, they say, hey, here's our fucking plot. Here's our plot hole list. And it's not a plot hole. They like explicitly go over these things. They completely like show them in universe, and they're consistent. And it's like, the reporting on this is awful. And it's like, okay, well, then you go from there to say like, okay, well, so you think this is an authoritative source based on that? You say, well, based on this, I'm talking about it. I think this thing's dog shit because look at it, it's fucking terrible. And then, okay, what are these other takes where I look at on YouTube? Where it coalesces these things.
You've been drinking
and I
tonight,
get so
buddy?
annoyed. I'm so annoyed. I'm just so annoyed with this fucking so-called authoritative sources, but they don't draw on what is actually.
They only
like,
have as much
objective.
authority as you want to give them, dude.
That is.
Well, but that's not true. That's not true because
Oh yeah, okay. So like, do you respect Jim Sterling's opinion on video games? I sure as fuck don't. Or whatever the fuck he goes by.
Excuse me. It's
Is it Jane?
Jane. Yeah, there you go. You.
Yeah, disdain
Jane
Sterling.
Sterling.
Yeah, I don't care. Like that's the
You
problem.
don't care, okay? But you know
Well,
what?
no,
you know,
I don't have to care about that person, but that doesn't mean that they don't have a pull that's gonna really like.
You played
it's gonna,
eventually your audience peters out and they have a ceiling. They're not the film reviewer for the fucking New York Times. And even if they were, who's reading the film reviews in the fucking New York Times?
But that's the problem. It's not the
They
film
also
review of.
lie a lot.
It's
You don't
not,
say.
It's not. Well, it's not the problem that it's the New York Times. It's the problem that it's Rotten Tomatoes. It's the thing that people actually like get Google.
Do you really
like, put
look at
towards-
Rotten Tomatoes, dude?
I look at it just to laugh at the fucking juxtaposition of where the audience score versus like the critics are.
Well,
But
yeah,
the
I mean
problem
those
is
are the
people
those are the
believe that.
jokes, but like I'm not out there like if I'm interested in a film, I go out and just watch the film.
Well,
You know,
no,
people
I'm absolutely
rant
with
people rant and rave about the Marvel cape shit. You know what the last Marvel film I saw was? It was the first Avengers. I have had no interest after that.
I think I remember watching a Iron Man movie. I don't know.
I never
Well,
saw Iron Man. I never saw
actually
Iron
say-
Man 3. I've seen none of the Thor films. I never saw the Captain America. I literally just saw like 2 Iron Men, and then like
Iron Man.
yeah, then I saw fucking like Avengers, and I was like, oh, that's fine. It's not bad. It's fun. It's fun. You can enjoy it, but like people who just get super into lore. My biggest thing I hate probably is fandoms. I really don't like fandoms. They
I
ruin
can
everything.
agree. I can very much agree. It's expectation, and I agree with you on.
It's not the greatest thing on the planet.
Yeah, let Apple go real quick.
Sure.
It's worse when it's a book.
Oh god, fucking Harry Potter, Twilight. I had to go through all that shit in high school. Or actually, Harry Potter was like, I was probably the first book that was published. I might have been in grade school. I was like, whatever, some wizard shit. Okay, rip off half of Tolkien. Not interested. Your plot armor.
The Rick and Morty fan base ruined that show for me.
Yeah, they're pretty bad.
Well, so now I would point
you,
towards.
Adam.
Well, you have a bunch of terrible fucking things that you can draw out of that, where it's like expectation, and that's the problem. Is if you watch Infinity War, which I think is a good. I think when you look at that, that's a good film. I actually like that. I know that it's a fucking cape shit fucking movie. It's got a very good antagonist. It's got a clear arc. When you watch it, you understand where people are coming from. There's causal effects, and it works really fucking well. I think the follow-up film, dog shit awful. I absolutely hate it, but I don't have to go to the source material to understand Infinity War. Infinity War in and of itself is a good film, and that's what I want to base it on. I don't want to have to go into your fucking books. Trust me, I went through Game of Thrones. I went through Song of Ice and Fire. I did all that shit. I said, like, oh, okay, well, this is how you ruin things, is you have expectations, you have people that can write better things than you have these fucking writers, because you have the fucking fan theories, and they're more,
Those
like, you get more
writers
dopamine from them.
sucked. Okay.
Well,
Those
it's
writers
a thing. It tends to be a thing. So I can sympathize with exactly what you're talking about, but this doesn't remove the fact that you can have objective measures of these things.
Yeah,
and
this is going to be mildly controversial for me to say, but I think the best thing to happen in Game of Thrones was season 8, because now I don't have to listen to them. I don't have to.
No, I agree. I actually agree.
Okay,
I completely agree.
okay. I say this as a person who's never watched a single episode of Game of Thrones. I say this because I don't have to listen to people talk about Game of Thrones anymore.
That's true. I've never seen.
Season 8 was so bad to people that they almost want to disown it, and I don't have to hear about
Liberation.
it.
Exactly.
Freedom.
Yeah, no, exactly. Exactly. That's what the best part of Captain Marvel, all these other fucking random things that they came out with, where I liked Infinity War, and I was like, oh fuck, well maybe like, wait, should I go back and look at some of these things? And then I look at these other things, and I'm like, they're awful. I don't have to care about it anymore, because it's like, oh yeah, no, Infinity War is a standalone thing where I like that. And because you can look at the juxtaposition of like good versus just absolutely terrible, you don't have to care about it. And so as soon as you can say, well, it's terrible, no, I don't care. Like, I don't have to own that. Fuck them. Who cares?
They absolutely massacred every single.
Yeah, they did, and it's liberating understanding that going forward, it's not going to get any better. Was that your point that you were talking about 420? Where it's like, well, but like understand
my point is again, this goes back to just the obsession of fandom that annoys me. Like, I'm not talking to you about a specific thing. All of a sudden, you have to insert your little in-joke Harry Potter stuff. You have to, when people unironically were calling you like a muggle and shit like that. I'm like,
Breath of Ages brings up Marvel, Harry Potter, Star Wars, and The Office.
It's funny because Star Wars is bad, but I feel like Star Wars people keep it in their conventions mostly because it became so mainstream.
They tend to, yeah.
Well, like, I mean, but
I can go anywhere and there'll be someone wearing a fucking like Harry Potter like school kid outfit. I'm like, that's not normal outerwear. I understand technically that is a skirt and little sweater vest thing you got going on, girl, but why do you have a wand as holstered?
Holster, oh yeah.
So I actually get pissed off on like a same level, different vibe when people moralize, where they're like, oh yeah, total Snape vibe, where somebody
that's bad too.
I fucking hate that. I hate the I
thought he was a stealth good guy, but I only saw
films. But the heuristic, the fact that you have to base your heuristic based on that is so fucking infuriating. Like, I don't want to hear your basing it off that.
In the book, Snape hated every single thing in the world except for Lily Potter. and I'm not a big fandom. I just know a little bit of the Harry Potter universe. But
That's fine. You
because he
can,
only liked
Lily
Potter,
yeah.
he would ruin everybody else's lives.
I would say by all means, like what you like. Like I don't care. It's just like
Sure.
there's a tipping point. There's a tipping point in like sanity where doing things like you said, where you're like where you're taking the moral foundations of characters that are again not real. It's different than idolizing someone like Winston Churchill during wartime or something like that, who actually existed, actually stood for something. It literally did. And it's sure, you might be able to find like some sort of mental strength in like a fictional character, and you're like, I want to be just kind of like that or whatever. I get that, but don't admit that in public. That's weird. That's
My generation doesn't do that.
When you ground it in, you say, okay, well, this is when you proclaim these sorts of things, it tends to show where your barometer's at. And you're like, okay, well, here's what's influencing me now. And if you say, this is the thing that's influencing me, it looks awful. It's a terrible optics game when you're like, oh, submit yourself to the mob. When you have these fucking terrible takes, just stay away from it. Don't do it. Don't fucking base your morality on fucking Snape, Harry Potter, any of these sorts of things. If you have to understand like what a certain form of like a causality loop, if you have to explain it with Harry Potter, I understand. That's a higher level thing where it's like, okay, based on the fact like Harry Potter, I read Harry Potter when I was a kid. I don't fucking look at this thing. Well, so
I'm not holding it against you, dude. I'm just saying.
Well,
like,
I'm saying
the people that get obsessive about it, they're basically, I guess it's the equivalent of like otaku, but I feel like even otaku stuff in like Japan isn't even nearly as bad. But I could be wrong. I could be totally off base. I've never been to Japan.
So I'm drawing again. I'm okay. You can say it, Apple, but
thank you. So when people are in these big fandoms and like you were saying, they insert that stuff into their lives. Like they'll quote like stupid cheesy lines and they'll pretend they're living it, or they'll get the tattoos with like the quotes on them, and they'll be like, "No, I'm a princess. No, I'm a queen. I'm a fighter, and all this and that." And I'm like, "You're not. You're just doing escapism." And because of that, because of people being unable to handle reality and their anxiety and their stress and whatever, my generation decided to pretend that they can live in different realms. And now they have a shifting reality thing, which is really popular. Which I talked to.
You're going to a can of worms. There's a whole can of worms.
It's quick.
But if you really want to look at it, the thing that you're right in what you're talking about. These people are fucking nuts. I agree. They're completely fucking nuts.
I think the worst part is we enable them.
Well, yeah, so that's why you don't do it. What you do
well,
is
I don't, but the rest of the world does. And
that's why you look at these different outlets and these reviewers that are saying, oh well, yeah, this is a cultural like cornerstone, and you don't let them do it. It's subjective versus objective. And so if the problem that I have is when people can pinpoint different they pinpoint a scene. Some people will pinpoint a scene and they'll say, oh well, this is why I identify with Snape, and I hate that. I don't want people to, well, people will say, well, okay, so what's Snape's line where he says at the end of the thing where it's like, I loved you always or something like that, always and forever, some stupid shit. Okay, he said something where he basically said he was always simping. So you got that.
Yes,
all right, cool. But
stalker.
Okay, so people latched onto that. People didn't latch onto the fact that there's a causality loop of determinism based on the fact that even if you time traveled, because you saw it in the past, you understand what you must do in the future, and you can't change that. So when you go into the future and reenact what you saw in the past, you have to do the same thing. Otherwise, things will not play out the same way. There's a complete causal chain there. And that makes complete sense. You can reference that, and you can reference that in like perfect totality and explain something objectively. But people will say like, oh yeah, but people conflate these with like weird fucking other like they conflate them with fucking feels, and I get really fucking annoyed by that. So if I can't use any sort of like, oh, there's the shorthand for Harry Potter where they explicitly said this thing in a really easy way that people are like, it's a cultural touchstone. It's really easy to explain. Yeah, I remember with the Patronus thing with whatever the fuck that happened with Harry, and it was
you guys done did it now. All right.
Well, I get fucking annoyed by that, and you don't have to go into the fucking field portion where you can say, here's exactly what happened. Here's a causal link. This is exactly what happens. but you can't use it anymore because everyone's like, oh, but no, if he felt like this wasn't that way, he would have been able to change it. And it's like,
The whole
okay,
point
it's
of
ruined.
Patronus was to get stronger. And then
No, it's not. That's
Okay,
not
all
the
right,
point.
all right, all right. Hold on,
gotta
hold
go
on.
for
This
another
is
program.
this
You
is on the
killed me.
low
Apple, you
episode
killed me in real
38.
time.
Flow Euphoria on all platforms. Thank you,
Apple.
ChadBroChill420.
Oh my
I appreciate
God.
it.